Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful astrology soulmates, and welcome to your horoscope for August of 2026. And I'm happy to be here with you. I'm always happy to be here with you. I genuinely love what I do and getting to spend time with you. But after July, particularly those last days, I feel like, of July, we're ending the month of July with that beautiful full moon. You know, we're coming in on this energy, but August is one of those months that I feel like this is why I love astrology. Because we get to sit between two eclipses, all of the ingresses that are going to happen for the month, and one of the most supportive aspects we have between the tutor planets at the end of the month. So grab your favorite drink, your bebidas, grab a little snack, whatever you like that is going to get you through eclipse season and going to get you through what we're going to talk about in this video. Now, if you've been hanging around the channel for a while, you know that there's going to be timestamps in the description box down below so that you can go to your sign and find out what is going on in the month for you, as well as find other goodies that are in the description box as well. And if we've never met before, I'm practicing professional astrologer Stormie Grace. It's a pleasure to have you here. I hope that you hear something on this channel that makes you want to come back and stay and be in community with us and bring astrology a little bit closer into your life. Now, if the word eclipse in general, particularly in 2026, has made you want to run and hide under a rock, I just want to tell you, you don't need to do that. You do not need to worry about that. We're not doing this stress-based astrology here, but we will talk honestly about what is happening. The eclipse gets a bad reputation because it resets us in ways that we didn't always plan for, or in ways that can seem scary because we get a new view and perspective on something. And that is the point, is for us to come at something differently. Allow the universe to do the heavy lifting and shift the energy in our favor, always, any direction that we need to go. So to me, eclipses are like giving a gentle, sometimes not so gentle, nudge in a different direction. And it is always helping us move towards our greatest good of the lessons we came here to learn. Now, this month, we're going to have our first eclipse is going to be a total solar eclipse happening in Leo, and we're going to experience that here on the 12th. Make sure you have checked out your eclipse videos that are separate from this video so that we can really get into the ushy-gushy of all of the things that are happening in that particular event. But I hope that you can come to love this energy as well, because it's Leo. Leo is reminding us here to shine, to laugh, to be a little bit louder, be in the joy, pleasure, play, and expression, right? It is this energy where you get to not grow into who you want to be, but it is be who you are. Just be who you are. What is the truth of who you are? We don't need another carbon copy. So who are you? Because you weren't designed this way by accident. So if you've been waiting for any kind of permission or feeling like, I just don't know if I can step forward, if I can share my work, if this is the right place to share my work, it's time. Deliver it, bring it out, bring it forward. Now, as we move from the 12th all the way on from that eclipse, we will watch well into 2027 as you get to see how your unique work that you have the courage to bring out is going to start to impact the lives of other people. Now, later in the month is when we will have our partial lunar eclipse. And this is going to be our last one in the vibration of Pisces. So the solar eclipse gave us this beautiful new door, particularly in the Aquarius and Leo axes, to begin to walk through. But the lunar eclipse is kind of like walking in and just doing last minute tidying up before it's going to leave. And as we look at this lunar energy in Pisces, it's giving you one last question, one last chance to check in. Do you have the kind of faith? Do you have the kind of trust in the universe, in your intuition? Have you surrendered enough baggage, forgiven and given enough compassion to travel as lightly, joyfully, and freely as you can into the spaces of your greatest good? Or is it showing you that I still have a few old fears or a few things that need to fall away in order for me to continue to have the courage to walk forward? Whatever it is, if I had to give August a theme, it would really be this for me. Be brave enough to be seen, and gentle and graceful enough with yourself to let go of what needs to be let go of. I think it's a beautiful way to move through this month. Now, before we jump in and start to break this month down in its entirety and go through all of the signs, I am thrilled to announce and share with you your 2027 astrology team. Look at these beautiful women. We will be coming together to walk you through health, finances, spirituality of 2027, and everything in between. We are going to get all your forecasts, and we will be your team guiding you through. And as well, the 2027 digital transit calendars are now ready for pre-sale. If you haven't had one of these calendars yet, ask somebody in the chat. They're fantastic. They really help us stay on top of the transits that are happening all year long and integrate beautifully with your own calendar. All year long, you'll hear me pattern tracking back to another time that a lunar event was happening or something like this. And if you've already got it slated into your phone, this is going to help you remember what you were doing at that time a lot easier. Now, you can take advantage of it always just by clicking the link, but you can also get a little discount by using my code Stormie2027. And let's be honest, it's amazing. Ask about it. Ask about it in the comment section down below. All right, beautiful friends, as we are opening this month, we've got Chiron turning retrograde in Aries. This is going to bring some questions to us about our worth, our value, our ability to receive, or our wound of receiving. And then that Venusian energy is going to slip into its other domicile place into Libra, where we're looking to attract and restore some harmony, some beauty, some balance into our relationships. Quickly after, we'll see Mercury enter fiery Leo. So we have the ability to speak the fire of our expression, but also it will encourage us to move and to speak and to say it with our chest out, have a little bit of confidence. Mars is going to shift its vibration into Cancerian waters, where we are going to move a little bit slower, a little bit steadier. Sometimes it looks like we're running in place, but we're just protecting our peace. But we're going to settle into healthy boundaries, how we actively create safety for ourselves. And then later in the month, we will see that the Sun and Mercury move themselves into the vibration of Virgo. We will bring in Virgo season. It's time to be perfect. I know, Virgo, I'm sorry. I'm just playing with you. I'm a Virgo rising. It's not about perfect. We just want it to be the very best that it can be so that it is of the most use and the most service. And finally, beautiful friends, as we close out this month, we've got Jupiter in this gorgeous trine to Saturn. So our tutor planets are speaking to each other. Now, if you don't know the tutor planets, the professor planets, the messengers, the adjunct planets, these are all the way that I speak the language of astrology. You can grab my book, The Big Book of Planetary Aspects, to help you learn more about it and bring this language of astrology into your life. But as Jupiter and Saturn come into conversation, I love this transit because it reminds us we do not have to choose between big, beautiful realities and big, beautiful dreams. They can actually come together. If you think about this, this is the gas and the brake working together perfectly. Now, as always, beautiful friends, I love to remind you that the very best astrology is your astrology. So please make sure that if nothing else, you click in the description box down below for your timestamps, but also grab your natal chart or go run a free one. As long as you have your chart so that you can be in the game, see what houses these aspects are impacting for you this month, and also see what aspects these transiting planets are making to other planets in your chart. That is going to give you the very best picture of what is really going on for you this month and every week in between. Again, you can also find some help in the Big Book of Planetary Aspects, so make sure you pick it up. All right, beautiful friends, get your tea, get your snack. Some people like Takis. Do you like Takis? I don't find those charming at all. My daughter likes those. My other daughter eats cucumbers and things like this for a snack. I don't know where she gets that either, but grab what you need and let's listen to your rising signs. Beautiful Aries friends, and wow, August is one of these months where I feel like your attention is being pulled in two very different directions in different parts of life. On one hand, we've got the Leo eclipse that's going to be asking you to rediscover your joy, your pleasure, your creativity, your confidence, this ability to express who you really are. On the other hand, we've got the Pisces lunar eclipse that is inviting you into a much quieter space of healing, closure, surrender. There's this emotional, spiritual release that is here. So together, when I look at these eclipses, Aries, to me, it sounds like the question is, can you build a life that really reflects your authentic self while finally releasing the burdens that you've been carrying probably behind the scenes for a while? So this month really does support you in becoming both bolder and softer at the same time, and certainly brave enough to shine. All right, Aries, when we're coming into the month on August 3rd, we see that Chiron is turning retrograde in the vibration of Taurus. So as we're beginning this month with this retrograde, it is taking place in your second house of income, self-worth, values, possessions, the way you allow creative resources to flow towards you. And this energy, because it's Taurian, we know it's in the material plane, but it's not just the bank account. Although the financial portion is really important, it is really going to be a part of the conversation. But at a much deeper level, Chiron here, I think, is asking you to examine the relationship you have between how you feel about money and how you feel about yourself. This is a big moment, I think. This is going to be a big journey as Chiron continues to move through Taurus for you. And Aries, it's quite possible that many in the Aries vibration have spent years believing that their worth was going to be measured by what they accomplish, how they earn, how they provide, produce, these kinds of things. You may have learned that the only way to be safe or valuable was to be successful, or that being useful is what makes you valuable. So that would be really challenging if you've ever experienced financial instability at any point in your life, because you may notice that when that happens, how deeply your security or your nervous system take the hit on that. It may still be preparing, even as I say that to you, or you're thinking about this area, or if I say, please practice receiving, you might feel like your body is bracing for a hit, right? It's bracing for a crisis that hasn't arrived yet, always waiting for the next shoe to drop. So this retrograde invites you to slow down, be with yourself, be in your body, ask yourself some difficult but lovely questions. Do you trust yourself? Do you trust your higher power to co-create stability? Are you constantly proving your worth to other people? Do you only feel successful once you're absolutely exhausted? Is your confidence tied to productivity instead of simply recognizing that as you live and move and have your being, this is the baseline of your value and you grow from there? Some of you may also be acknowledging, as Chiron is taking this retrograde, that you have painful memories around money, or how your family talked or moved around resources, a feeling of scarcity, a lack of safety, things like this. These things don't come up for us to work on when we get into a new vibration as punishment. They're asking to be healed, and they're asking in Chiron for this wound. We're bringing that poison to the surface so that the wound can heal, but also so that you can show someone else how to walk through this. How have you healed? What have you learned? By the end of this retrograde, you're going to see that you had this beautiful opportunity to begin separating your identity from your material income or your material possessions, first of all. And also, I think Chiron is going to help you build a lot of self-worth from the inside out. But a big piece of that will be receiving. So I hope you are in that Venus Reset program. Now, on the 6th, Venus is going to enter into Libra, speaking about Venus, which will light up your 7th house place. As Venus comes into your 7th house of conscious, chosen, one-on-one, committed relationships, that means anywhere you're partnering, contracts, marriage, clients, mentors, any kind of significant one-on-one connection, okay? This is one of the loveliest relationship transits I think you'll experience all year, because Venus is in domicile in the partnering space. Now, if you're already in a relationship, any kind of relationship, okay, but think important, conscious one-on-one relationships, this can be a beautiful time for you to connect. Improve the communication. Make sure things are balanced. Enjoy. Enjoy, not fix, just enjoy. Receive more pleasure, more romance, more connection. You know, remember why you entered into whatever your said partnership is in the first place. Because sometimes truly life and the world is changing so much that it becomes so busy that relationships start to operate like this is just a transactional space instead of an actual partnership. So Venus is going to remind you to come back, laugh together, check back in, make sure that the goodness and the balance is still in there. If you are single, this can be a transit that does increase opportunities to meet people who are going to reflect that maturity, that balance, that kindness. And more importantly, I think that it asks whether you are becoming the kind of partner you would like to attract. I had no idea that being in a relationship was a skill. I had no idea. So I needed to learn how to Venus the area of my chart around relationships. How do I become this and then attract it and call it right in, okay? So I think this is going to be a really lovely transit. Please let me know how it goes for you. On the 9th, we have Mercury moving into the vibration of Leo, lighting up your 5th house space. Joy, pleasure, play, creativity, children, taking a risk, some kind of joyful expression. And as Mercury comes here into Leo, it's really just kind of breezing in fresh mental energy, fresh vocabulary into the space. Remember, Mercury has been in its retrograde. It left its post-retrograde shadow time just on the 6th. So Mercury is also over here ready to chat it up about what it has been working on since June. Your mind becomes more playful now. The ideas flow more easily. The conversation is warm or fiery. You may suddenly find yourself inspired to create something, and it's really simple, but it just brings you joy. You know, sometimes adults forget that joy is productive as well. So if you've been putting off getting on the floor, playing with those kids, just relaxing into the playing, launching something, filming those videos, this is your encouragement. This is your encouragement, and you're not going to have the right conditions, but this is a nice set of issues. For some of you parents as well, this keeps coming to my mind, that there's a conversation you may be having with your children, and it's really important at this time. Like they're telling you something, and you almost realize that you are who you needed or who your ideal was when you were younger. And that is a really important thing to acknowledge. When we get to the 11th, we see Mars moving into the vibration of Cancer. Now, Mars will be moving through your 4th house of home, family, real estate, property, your roots, and emotional foundation. So it can be an incredibly productive transit, particularly if you're doing something with your home, right? You're moving, you're reorganizing, maybe there are just family responsibilities that need to be tackled. But emotionally, Mars here is asking us to also acknowledge the feelings that are in the home, whatever the home are, if we've been avoiding them, or if there is some conflict that needs to come up to clear or renovate this area. So you might notice that there are dynamics surfacing in your home, and I want to include in your body, the stories of your body. You know, an old family dynamic could be coming right up out of that left hip. Perhaps someone in your home is expecting you to continue to play a role that you've just always played, and that's starting to feel a bit tense. Or you've always been the fixer or the responsible one. And now Mars is like, I think what I'm going to be doing is refusing to do that, or I won't do it like that anymore. Just keep in mind during this transit, Mars is moving things around here. This is where you'll have motivation and energy, but home is not just where you live. It also has to be the place where your heart and your nervous system find a place to rest and exhale so that you can also receive and have the joy that comes with this. On the 12th, we've got this lunar eclipse happening in Leo. Now, this is going to light up that 5th house space. Wow, something wants to be born through you. And for some of you, it will be that people are trying to be born through you. You know, there might be children, pregnancy, something like this. But this can also involve performing, writing, entrepreneurship. You're falling in love. You're just recovering and exploring your joy. Maybe there's been a lot of, I feel like I've been surviving or I've been doing it on my own. And now you're discovering you don't have to do that. Perhaps you've spent so long just paying bills that you're like, I actually forgot what lights me up. Well, this transit and this eclipse is reminding you that you didn't just come here to be responsible. Yes, at differing levels of different charts, we've come to learn the lesson of responsibility, but you also came here to laugh and to create and to take a chance to fall in love. Now, some of you, I do think that this eclipse can be painful in its recovery because it's showing you where you've abandoned yourself creatively or you've been shrinking in some way. Now, this eclipse it's not about you need to fix all that and become someone new. It's just going to be asking you to come home to a version of yourself that's been missing. And so you're starting to feel more burnt out and like every day is kind of looking the same. On the 22nd, the sun is going to enter into the vibration of Virgo, lighting up your 6th house space. Now, after all the excitement of a Leo eclipse, your attention is shifting towards your daily routine, work, health, responsibilities, contract, service. And this is where that inspiration that we're calling forward comes into practical action. And I love that about the transition between Leo and Virgo. So you'll likely be doing Virgo-y things, organizing your schedule. Saturn is still retrograde in Aries. We talked about, does your daily schedule reflect the dream that you're saying you want to have play out in your life? If not, maybe you're refining a workflow. You're improving your health. You're coming up with a better system that is actually in service of your life in the long term. Because I'm telling you, if you've been burning yourself out trying to do everything by yourself, or you're just coming to this place where you're feeling these edges of burnout or something is creeping in like that doesn't belong here anymore, Virgo season reminds you that that's fine. We're going to clean that right out because we want the productivity to be sustainable. We want to be listening, Virgo's an earth sign, to where your body is talking to you. And this month, as Virgo season comes along, it's really worth listening to. Now, just a little bit later, a couple days later, we'll see that Mercury comes into Virgo as well, where it is in home court. So it strengthens your ability to, one, speak, two, to really organize the hell out of a little something, and to solve problems. I love Mercury Virgo time because you can get into the nitty gritty of those business plans, those finances. What is the meal prep routine we're getting on? So enjoy this. Enjoy it. It will teach you that it is the baby steps in everyday living that are going to get you to that goal. On the 28th, we've got a partial lunar eclipse happening in Pisces, and this one is lighting up your 12th house space. And I think that this is perhaps one of the most emotionally significant transits for you for the month. Because the eclipse falling in your 12th house, where we do endings, healing, spirituality, grief, rest, retreat, surrender. Sometimes this house asks us to release something tangible, but more often than that, it is asking us to release a version of ourselves. It's not spiritually in alignment anymore. So if you're feeling like you're recognizing that you've been carrying emotional, spiritual pain that no longer needs to be present in your life, or if there's the old grief. I'm not talking about current things. I'm talking about old grief, childhood memories, childhood or youth anxiety, guilt, shame, resentment. If they rise to the surface, they are just coming at this time to be witnessed and done with. So this eclipse can feel deeply emotional in that way because it contains the parts of ourselves that really did learn to hide. It can also be, if you think about it this way, where do things come up for you and they are tears that you just never cried, like you didn't even know where they were. They were hidden behind your spiritual sofa, and now you found them and they're ready to be cried. Is there sleep that hasn't been slept? You know what I mean? Is there anger that hasn't been expressed? Are there dreams that were buried in you because they weren't the right kind for the world, or they weren't practical enough for someone else? Either way, I think that the eclipse here is coinciding with the ending of what's happening privately for you, and where you're getting some release from that, but also just the understanding of how deeply nourishing solitude feels for you. Because when we're tired or when we just want to create, we need to pull away and allow ourselves to express even our solitude. Now, as we are going to end this beautiful month on the 31st, Jupiter is in a trine to Saturn. The month is ending with one of the most supportive aspects that I think we experience all year, because it's the tutors in conversation with each other. So Jupiter is here in your 5th house, and it's forming this trine, or this energy that is easy to access, with Saturn that is in your sign and retrograde right now. So there's a harmony between your identity and what you want to express. Everything you have been discovering about yourself through this year, through the outer planets changing signs, and now throughout August, is finding a structure in this last day of August. So the confidence that started to be born during the solar eclipse at the beginning of the month starts to become something you can really build on here. I'm getting excited for you, because it's like you realize, I hope you realize, and you allow yourself to surrender into this energy of understanding you do not have to force your future. You just don't have to. You just have to keep showing up to it and make sure the day-to-day little steps and routines line up. By the end of August, I think that you realize, Aries, that we're not doing this become somebody different. That you are who you are, and as you take these daily baby steps, you will become someone different. And you will become more comfortable in being that different someone, because your soul has quietly been trying to introduce you to each other for a while. All right, my beautiful Aries friends, let me know how the month goes in the comment section down below. Really brilliant Taurus friends, listen, August is deeply personal for you. While the world around you, Taurus, may seem like it's focusing on all this movement and this change, your journey this month is really about creating a stronger foundation for yourself beneath your feet. You're an earthy energy. The eclipses activate some of the most private parts of your chart, and that means, Taurus, that it's going to ask you to examine, where do you belong? Who are your people? Who are you surrounding yourself with? And because of that, what kind of future you're building, truly based on where you're standing. This is a month for you, Taurus. I also think of really reconnecting with your roots. Like, feeling like you are settled and rooted in, so that you can stretch your arms out and dream bigger. Dream past some of the fear that has been here for a while. So as one chapter is coming to a close in the eclipse story, there's another chapter that is taking shape right now, and it is reminding you, Taurus, that it really is not just about where you're going, but it's about creating the life that you want and who's going there with you. Okay, let's start at the beginning of the month, because it is personal from the beginning. On the 3rd, we've got Chiron going retrograde in Taurus. So it's right here in your 1st house. And this is identity, self-image, confidence, your physical body, the way that you move and glide your hips and your heart through the world. So this is an incredibly personal transit for you because it's going to invite you to reflect on the relationship that you have with yourself. Now, over the past several months, you might have noticed as Chiron has taken this dance into Taurus that you're changing, maybe in ways even within your body, the energy in your body. Some of them have felt really uncomfortable and other ones have been really exciting. Or maybe you've started questioning really old identities that you've carried for years. There's a version of you that you were presenting to the world, I think, for a while, and it's just not so authentic anymore. And I love that you're getting to come through that. But Chiron here has been asking you to become more curious about who you're becoming instead of clinging to who you've always been. And a piece of this story is to really be a Taurus. Calm the hell down and let it come to you, but be clear about what you are calling. So this retrograde may bring these moments for you, Taurus, where old insecurities are creeping up. I don't know if I'm going to be able to call it to me. I have challenges receiving. You might hear this old voice pop in your head, and it's this old critic saying things to you about your body, saying things to you about, well, that person's journey looks like this over there. Why doesn't yours? Or wondering whether or not if you are or have ever been enough. And if those thoughts come up for you, I want you to remember that healing rarely moves in a straight line. Sometimes we have to revisit that old wound, not because it's failure, but because you're strong enough now to realize, I don't know why I was still carrying this. I'm doing so much better than that inner critic was giving me credit for. Now, for some Taurus people, this transit may also coincide with different changes that are actually coming up in your confidence, how you are physically, your appearance, how you're presenting yourself, or something around your health. So you might start caring for your body differently. Oh, I love that. Maybe your personal style is changing. You're going to begin to treat yourself with some grace and some compassion. You freely give it to other people. And now it's starting to come here to you, really moisturized, really hydrated, really rested. From an evolutionary perspective, Chiron in your first house is always going to ask you to release identities that were built around survival, the wound of fear, the fear of receiving, of resting, other people's expectations. And so in order to come to the other side, you're learning that you don't have to earn everything. Some things are just about having the confidence to ask for it and then receive it. And it's something that you practice one baby choice at a time. So it's a powerful beginning of the month. Then your ruling planet, Venus, is going to move into the other domicile sign of Libra, and this lights up your 6th house place. As Venus moves into the 6th house, we start to come into the space of daily routines. I love this for you. Health. Being of service to other people, co-workers, your daily responsibilities. And as Venus is here in Libra, you're trying to draw some sense of harmony in these very practical day-to-day areas of your life. I'm telling you, romance your life. Romance that laundry. Romance that laundry, Taurus. You are a Venusian. Act like it, please. If work has felt stressful or overwhelming, this transit can help soften those edges. That's what Venus does. It comes and it can kind of soften an edge of something. Relationships with your coworkers or people you're in service with or you're doing projects with, these can also become a bit more enjoyable because Venus is typically enjoyable to be around. I'm curious if you're not really going to end the end of this transit just finding greater satisfaction in your everyday routine. You have a little bit more space for that coffee. Your organized workspace feels like you. It's really a lovely transit for all of this. Now, the other place is that it's a lovely transit for focusing on your health, but it's coming from a place of receptivity and self-love rather than that criticism. Instead of asking, how can I fix myself? You might be asking, how can I take care of myself in a way that feels and makes me sense that this is better for me? It is a subtle shift in perspective, but it can change everything. And you know what comes with that? When we get in alignment with your vibe, you find your tribe, and those finances, those right aligned relationships come with it as well. So what you are seeking is absolutely looking for you. On the 9th, Mercury moves into Leo, lighting up your 4th house space, home, family, real estate, property. Now, we've already had the South Node move into Leo as well. These two are nowhere near each other, but that South Node is starting to tell this vibration a little bit of changes in your home space. So as Mercury comes here, expect to have conversations about where you live, how you're living, things in the living situation, family relationships, emotional foundation. You know, it could be a time where you're discussing something about the home, you're renovating it, you're moving, you're reconnecting with family members, you're making a very important decision about where you want to put down roots or what putting down roots would feel like for you. Others of you may honestly just find yourself in the memories of your family, the family tradition, things like that, and where you see your family traditions present in everyday choices. Either way, Mercury is in a fire sign, so it's going to encourage you to spit fire in a lovely way, have those honest conversations at home and about home. On the 11th, Mars enters into Cancer. So see, we're doing all of the home energies. But this actually lights up your 3rd house space. Mars is where we have our action and our movement for the month. So for you, it's in communication, siblings, neighbors, learning, everyday communications, networking. Some of you might be writing a book, a website, something like that. So your mind becomes busy during this transit because we've got Mercury in Leo. But while you're stimulated with all these different ideas, those ideas come with actions that need to be taken. You got to have the conversation. You got to run the errand, the emails, the meetings, the decisions that really require your attention. It's an incredibly productive transit. Now, you just want to be mindful as you were experiencing this, that you are thinking before you're just having a reaction. Give yourself just a moment to process your emotion before you jump to an action, okay? Because it's still Mars. Mars is going to have this edge of impatience, particularly in conversations. So you might feel tempted to jump in and finish someone else's conversation, and they don't like that, and you're kind of in a collision with other people. Or you're getting frustrated because something's delayed, something like this. So just be mindful that Mars is also down for a little bit of disagreement. But to the positive side, I think that Mars is going to give you through this transit enough courage to have conversations, finish tasks that have been needing to get done. On the 12th, we've got this solar eclipse happening in Leo. It is also in the 4th house. So listen. This is one of the most significant months I think that you will experience in 2026 regarding your home, family roots, your sense of belonging. This eclipse really could, for not one or two of you, but I think many of you, have an impact on moving, renovating the home, purchasing it. Some of you might be welcoming someone new into your home, or you're just beginning this entirely new chapter, even if it's the same house, same street, same people live in this joint, but there's like this different chapter that's coming in your living situation. Others of you, it's going to hit at the emotional level. There's this shift. And it has very little to do with anything in the physical housing, but it has everything to do with finally feeling at home within yourself. Because the eclipse is asking, with my big heart out, where do I belong? Not where do I think it's fun to live? Where am I expected to stay? But where does your heart actually feel safe? Now, we cannot avoid it. It's an eclipse, and sometimes eclipses are painful. So for some of you, it could be an experience of it's uncovering a painful family dynamic, and it's probably been in place for a couple years, where you're recognizing a pattern. It's been passed down through different generations, and it can be silent scorn within your house, fear, doing this emotional distancing, whatever it is. These realizations can be very emotional for us, but actually being able to see them and see what's happening is so much growth and progress, because it becomes incredibly freeing, because you're going, wait a minute, I know this pattern. I don't have to carry it from my ancestors, and I can change the story. Now, on the 22nd, Just a few weeks later, it's not even a few weeks, that's like days later, the sun is going to shift into Virgo, lighting up this fifth house space. As the sun enters into Virgo, it's bringing light, heat, life, and vitality, and your attention is going to shift towards your practical creativity. Oh, I do love a good earth sign connection for you. You know, it's like it's nice when you get in contact with another earth sign because that romance, that joy, that pleasure, that play, it feels like you're allowed to have it in an easier way in the material plane. You know, you've been doing so much meaningful work emotionally, financially in earlier months. And Virgo season is going to remind you that healing isn't just about processing pain, but it's also about feeling and creating the joy of good living wherever you are. Oh. So Taurus, you might feel inspired to return to something creative or spend more time with your children. You're more relaxed with your children. You're playful. Is there a hobby you've been interested in? You know, make room to be a Virgo. Make room in the schedule for laughter. Joy is not a distraction, and you don't have to earn it at all. So let's be getting on with it. On the 25th, we now see Mercury entering into the vibration of Virgo, where it's in home court terrain. So when Mercury joins the sun here in your fifth house, fresh ideas, new clarity, new movement of not only your motivation, but your mind. So it's an excellent time to begin a project, work on a project, refine something. This is Virgo territory, refine it. Share your gifts more openly because you'll see that it's actually of service to other people. If you've been waiting until everything feels perfect before you're putting yourself out there, Taurus, this is not it. Mercury is going to say here, no. This is going to grow when we take a step-by-step approach, not when it's perfect. Now, okay, just because this is the fifth house, I don't feel like we give Virgo a lot of credit for being romantic. But Virgo energy is romantic. And in the fifth house, there are romantic conversations that might be coming up, and they're a lot more meaningful at this time because there's a thoughtfulness. There's a cup filling that feels like it's actually being of service to those that are involved in this romantic exchange. So if that's you, let me know in the comment section down below. Okay, on the 28th, now we come to our lunar eclipse that's happening in the vibration of Pisces. This lights up your 11th house. Now, Taurus, we have been working this Virgo Pisces axis for the last 18 months. Okay, this is not new information. It's not new terrain. In fact, this is the last pass, the last sweep over here. So as we have this full moon lunar eclipse in this 11th house, it's friendships, community, group, networking, hopes, dreams, your vision for the future, social media. I put them all in the social places. And this eclipse is asking you to take an honest look at the people who are surrounding you. Are they nourishing you? Are these groups, these communities, these friendships, are they nourishing you? You know, are the communities that you're investing in, are they reflecting who you want to be? Because who you want to be, the life that you want, it is going to be impacted by the people you're with. You know, but also Taurus, are you with people, but you're there, but not with them? This is a thing to think about. And this happens when the world changes. Sometimes we really just outgrow certain spaces. And we have this little bit of challenge admitting that to ourselves. And it doesn't come from an egoic place. It's our spirit saying, I can't offer anything here anymore. Or it can't be offered to me. And Taurus, I love you. You're a beautiful earth sign. But sometimes you remain loyal to relationships and communities long after the growing has stopped within them. And it doesn't mean that it's unhealthy, right? Like that this place is unhealthy. It's just they become familiar. So you're just doing what you do. So the eclipse may reveal these changes that are needed to you, or you may notice that even things you're listening to on social media, they're not inspiring you anymore. And it is a bittersweet realization because Taurus, whatever you've been doing it for a while. Listen, I'm a Taurus too, so I really know this, right? But it is okay. I think this eclipse lets you know that this realization is okay. It's okay for you to dream again. It's okay for you to move into spaces where maybe you're the new Taurus in town, but you become inspired yet again. But just remember, the future that you're building, who you're building it with, is really going to impact what that looks like for you. As we're going to close out this month, Taurus, on the 31st, we've got Jupiter in a trine to Saturn. So we've got a conversation between your 4th house and your 12th house, okay? So as we're having this experience, this is so cool because it's one of the aspects that reminds me that like the abundance of what you have in spirit, in rest, in your ability to surrender is really, really, really the gift here. This is abundance is so much more than the money. And I think that you're learning this. It's more than just the earthly things, right? So the healing, the solitude, the endings, the relationship with grief and the unconscious. This is helping you build peace from the inside out. You may notice that something you've been healing really privately under this feels like it's lighter. You have access to it now. You know, you're just not replaying that situation anymore. You have a different relationship with whatever you call a higher power or the divine, and it's not tangible. But there's this reconnection that has happened to you. It is a transformation. It's not always dramatic. It's like, I'm just choosing peace and rest over being exhausted and looking busy. I'm not doing that anymore. I think that as we are going to close out August, I hope this for you, that you realize that one of the greatest gifts that August will have had to offer you isn't just changes in your physical circumstances, but it's a stronger relationship with yourself, your higher power, realizing the more that you really trust that inner foundation, you see yourself receive and move from that deep power, that the less the outside world, the less you're worried about them. You're less you're worried about if you're actually safe. It's such a beautiful place of spiritual and inner stability. So let me know how the month goes for you, Taurus. I love you a ton, and I will see you all throughout the month. Geminis, and welcome to your horoscope for August of 2026. Now, August is a month that's going to ask you to pay close attention to the stories you're telling yourself, Gemini. There is so much taking place in the areas of communication, learning, home, all of this, that it has the potential, I think, this month to completely shift your perspective. And sometimes that's all it takes is a perspective shift to switch your circumstances, right? Now, the eclipses this month are going to encourage you to find your voice while also trying to redefine a direction that you want to go. So by the end of August, I think that you find yourself, first of all, speaking, saying it with your chest out. You have a greater confidence there because you've become more clear, Gemini, about what matters today. It's not like you're clear about your whole entire life, but you are clear about what matters to you today. So right at the beginning of the month on the 3rd, we've got Chiron retrograde in Taurus, and this is lighting up your 12th house space. This is in the 12th house. We're doing healing, spirituality, endings, dreams, solitude. The hidden parts of your world live in this 12th house space. So it's one of the most introspective transits that you're going to experience. And while much of the healing taking place might not be visible externally to anyone else, it is really going to be powerful to you and how you move through the world. So over the last couple months, as Chiron has come into the vibration of Taurus, you might have started to notice some emotional patterns that have been kind of working behind the scenes for years. Or you realize how much you actually anticipate disappointment before it arrives, right? You are wanting to believe that you trust yourself, but you actually struggle when it comes to it, or that you're just carrying burdens that nobody knows that you are carrying. And Chiron has been asking you to gently bring these things up to the light so that the light can touch the wound, right? And heal it. It's not about let's get in there and relive this, but it is to understand them with greater compassion and let it be cauterized and healed. So this retrograde, one of the things I really want to advise you to pay attention to is your dreams. Vivid dreams, or seeing more signs or synchronicities coming up, because they'll be quite meaningful. Or moments where you're just there having like this deep spiritual insight. You know, your spirituality, your connection to whatever you call the divine, your intuition, they are all really strengthened now, but they are going to ask you to trust that. So if your life has really been filled with a lot of constant noise, distractions, you've got all these obligations, you might start to feel like I need to just take these headphones out and hear my own heartbeat for a minute, right? And that's going to be a really beautiful experience for you. Now, some of you too might be working on things behind the scenes and you're feeling a little bit of pain behind it where you're like doubting it in some way. I think that as you work through this retrograde, you're going to see that it is more worthy. You are more worthy than you've been giving it credit for. On the 6th, we've got Venus entering into the vibration of Libra, and this will light up your 5th house space, joy, pleasure, play, romance, your children. It's a sweet energy for the month, so enjoy it. Just remember, Venus is not a hustle hard planet. So after spending all this time focused on responsibilities, Venus is reminding you that life is meant to be a little bit enjoyed as well as managed. So if you feel more inspired to return to some kind of project or spend more time with your children or just explore, laugh, live, laugh, love, right? Bring that back. Do you guys remember how big that signage was in people's houses forever? Do that. Don't underestimate the power of doing something simply because it makes you smile. That's a beautiful way to attract gratitude to you and to remember what you're grateful about. Now, on the 9th, we'll have Mercury entering into the vibration of Leo, lighting up your 3rd house space. So in your 3rd house, we've got communication, learning, neighbors, siblings, writing, teaching, a little bit of short distance travel. Mercury is about all of that as well. So this is a wonderful transit for you, because it's your ruling planet. It's feeling right at home. You're feeling at home expressing those ideas, asking those questions, making those decisions and connections. Your mind is especially active in a fire energy. So if you do find yourself, you're like writing, you're recording, you're taking a class and it's feeling really good. You feel like your mind is clicked in. Yes, enjoy it. But also remember that as you are speaking, people are paying attention to what you're saying now. Your words are carrying confidence, but they can also carry the warmth of that Leo fire. So it makes an excellent time for you to do those interviews, do those presentations, start the damn podcast, or get back to it. Speak. Anything that relies on communication, this one is for you. Now, the one caveat I will say is make sure you are listening as much as you are speaking, because sometimes in all of the excitement, it can cause us to just be responding, but the person's going to realize you didn't really hear their perspective at all. Okay, on the 11th, we've got Mars coming into the vibration of Cancer. And as Mars enters Cancer, it comes into your 2nd house of income, finances, self-worth, personal values, all of this. Now, Mars is where we have the action for the month. So this transit is going to increase your movement, your motivation, your desire to earn money, to negotiate a raise, to build a business, to create additional income streams, or just become more intentional around the financial / value things in your life. So, you're likely to feel a little bit more inspired to take practical actions that will bring you more security or stability. At the same time, Mars is still Mars. Mars is down for a little conflict, particularly if it gets things back on track. So Mars may expose places for you where money has become very emotionally charged, or like money is your higher power. And you'll know, because if the money is there, you're doing all right. But if there's no money, you're like an emotional wreck, right? So financial conversations could become really sensitive, but important for you at this particular time. At a deeper level, I want us to always remember that Mars is asking whether our relationships and our actions with money are actually reflections of our relationships with ourselves. Are you charging what you're worth? Are you investing and stewarding your money in a way that allows you to operate from safety instead of scarcity? So look at what you're doing with your finances, okay? On the 12th, we've got an eclipse, a solar eclipse happening in Leo, and this is also going to be in that third house space, so those communication spaces. This eclipse may completely, I think, transform how you see your voice. It could be marking the beginning, a solar eclipse, of some kind of new teaching, new YouTube channel, new educational path, new launch, like speaking, something that's putting you in a position to be speaking more. Others of you might experience having really important conversations or needing to make a decision that changes the direction of your life, and they could be happening certainly at the same time. I'm curious too about how it resets your mindset. Gemini, when you're trying to do something new, do you really encourage yourself, or is there still this criticizing yourself before anybody else has the chance to do it? Or have you been telling yourself like a same story for years? I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm not qualified, nobody wants to hear what I have to say. Or you've just been speaking a language that's not landing with people around you. For some of you, I think this is going to get your mindset together. It's going to help you be really focused on where it's possible for your words and your voice to make the most impact. On the 22nd, the sun is going to move into Virgo, lighting up your fourth house space, home, family, real estate, property, your sense of belonging. And after such a mentally active, first part of the month, it's even been mentally active for you. Virgo season, I think, is going to encourage you to slow down and reconnect with your roots, right? Get earthy about it. Organize your home. Spend more time with the people you love. Improve your routine so that it's something that feels like it's really earthy and based in your most emotional well-being. On the 25th, we've got Mercury now coming along into Virgo, joining the sun in this fourth house. So I wouldn't be surprised if you don't find yourself making decisions about your home or reconnecting to stories of family with family, something like this. But there's some long-term planning or long-term conversation that is coming up from Mercury and the sun being in this particular house. If there are conversations that need to happen with your family or about your family, Mercury in this position is going to support you approaching them with, honesty and compassion, but it's really important that there be practical solutions presented. Okay? All right, on the 28th, we've got a lunar eclipse happening in Pisces, and this is going to be the last one on the Pisces-Virgo axis that we're going to experience. And this will light up your 10th house space of career, public relations, your leadership, achievement, a legacy that you're building in the world, things like this. So as we are experiencing this at the tip top of your chart, one of your most significant professional turning points that you've experienced in probably a long time. Some of you might finally get that promotion, make that career change. You're going to finally allow yourself to retire, or the date has presented itself. Others of you will be receiving recognition for things that you've been doing or being ready to launch that business out there. For other people, although this is a very public position of the chart, I actually think that the shift is a little bit more internal. Because this is like we're in a whole new world out here today. And so what used to be success might have actually been someone else's version of success, but it might have also been the world's definition of a success that is not what's actually right for you, right? That's going to be interesting. And for it, just depending on where you're at in your journey. Some of the realizations can be painful. Other ones can be really freeing. If you've spent years investing in something that doesn't fulfill you, there's wisdom. It wasn't wasted. There's wisdom in recognizing that this doesn't fulfill me anymore. This isn't making the money I wanted it to. This isn't giving me the life that I wanted to. I don't want to pour into this. It is about the honesty of making a life and making the kind of life you want to live in will increase your visibility during the eclipse. So, release. It's a lunar eclipse. Release any of the professional or public titles or identities that you've just outgrown so that you can be who you're actually supposed to be right now. Now, as we're going to close out this month, we've got Jupiter in a trine to Saturn. I love this. This is a lovely aspect between the tutors, the ones helping us learn as we're traveling at the end of the month. It's a wonderful aspect for recognizing that your voice has the power to shape your future. Gemini, the teaching, the writing, the conversations, the networking, sharing your voice, sharing your ideas can open doors that continue to benefit you and others long after August comes to an end. So, for some of you, you might find yourself in new social groups or collaborations, professional spaces, things like that could definitely be something, or you have new friends coming your way. And the people that enter your life now, I don't think are the ones that are like hyping you up. They're not just encouraging your dreams. These are the kind of people entering your life where they might be a bit more Saturnian. They're serious. They're like, yeah, no, I'm here to help you build that dream. And it may not mean that it feels like the most friendly friend that comes to you. They're just like, yeah, I'm going to help you build that dream. And Saturn here is retrograde and reminding you that meaningful relationships, first of all, take some time to cultivate. But Jupiter is reminding you that if you remain open to the opportunities, take it slow, be persistent, learn and share with others in your connections, success is going to work. Because success is very rarely a solo journey anyways. We're often being guided towards our purpose through people who believe in us well before we have the audacity to believe in ourselves. So as August comes to a close, my beautiful Gemini friends, I think you're going to feel like, I pray that you feel like you realize that your greatest gift isn't just about what's in that beautiful Gemini mind of yours, but it's your willingness to share it and understand that it has really deep impact. All right, my beautiful Gemini friends, let me know how the month goes in the comment section down below. I love you, and I'll see you next time. My absolutely brilliant and beautiful Cancerian friends, and welcome to your horoscope for August of 2026. Now, Cancer, this month is about remembering what matters, right? Much of the year has really asked you to do a lot of redefining, stepping into more courage, all of these words that we've been using pretty strong. But now as we're coming across to our next set of eclipses, it's asking you to recognize both your tangible and intangible wealth, right? One reminds you that your gifts deserve to be shared with the world, of course, but the other is really encouraging you to expand your vision as to how that is possible. So by the end of the month, I think you're going to realize multiple things about abundance, my beautiful Cancerian friends. One of them is going to believe that you will believe that you're worth receiving it and that what you have to share is worth sharing. Okay, beautiful Cancers, here on the 3rd, we've got Chiron stepping retrograde into Taurus. Now, this lights up your 11th house space. As Chiron is lighting up the 11th house, which is about friendships, community, networking, your future, it's a retrograde that is inviting you to reflect on the people you've surrounded yourself with and whether those relationships still support the person that you're becoming, the direction that your life wants to go. And sometimes there's this hallway in between, Cancer, that is very lonely because you're not the old thing and you're not the new thing yet. So if over the past several months, you've begun to notice these shifts, some subtle, some not, but they're within your social circle, or perhaps you've been feeling a little bit less connected to certain friendships, or you've realized you've been giving far more than you've been receiving. Maybe you found yourself questioning whether you've been shrinking yourself in a dream so that you can fit into the environments that you're in, but they don't actually inspire you anymore. So Chiron is going to ask you to look at healing those stories, right? This transit, as Chiron moved into Taurus in general, The transit can bring old wounds to the surface, particularly about who is my tribe, about belonging. It raises them right to the surface. It can bring up these places where it feels like we've been misunderstood or overlooked or excluded in some way. But the thing is, this transit is helping you see that the people who are meant to walk beside you, they're not going to require you to get smaller. They're not going to require you to shrink your dreams. In fact, the right community is really going to celebrate you. They're going to celebrate your growth. So remember, your soul is learning during this particular transit that your future cannot be built from old fears of rejection, right? You're just being encouraged now to really intentionally seek the friendship and the community that you crave. On the 6th, we see Venus entering into the vibration of Libra, lighting up your 4th house space, home, family, real estate, property. And Venus coming here to these rooted areas of your chart is about giving your heart a place to rest. So honestly, you could be attracting in more money or something of value to you at this time around your home situation. But it's also a really beautiful transit for spending time with people you love. Decorate the home, improve it, reconnect, make your space feel like it is yours. Make your environment feel peaceful and nurturing and balanced, because home is more than home. It's more than a place you go to sleep. It's sanctuary. So make sure your place feels like a sanctuary. For some of you, because this is in Libra, if there has been a family relationship that's been feeling particularly strained or cut off in some ways, Venus can offer an opportunity through healing, and it's really about open-heartedness. It doesn't mean that you and said person who got cut off are going to get back together, but it can mean that something in you is softened around it, right? On the 9th, we see Mercury entering into Leo, lighting up your 2nd house space of income, finances, self-worth, your material resources. And this is bringing more attention and thinking to the money and to the relationships that you have, but particularly around your own gifts. So this would be an excellent time to review your budget, negotiate a rate, organize your financial plans. You're launching a project. You're thinking very strategically about some kind of long-term financial goal and how you allow value to flow towards you. Now, at a deeper level, Mercury is our planet of communication. So it may be asking you to examine how you speak about yourself. When an opportunity presents itself, do you instinctively, Cancer, believe that you are capable? Or do you immediately kind of start listing all the reasons where someone else might be more qualified? Think about this. The conversations you have with yourself about value often determines the opportunities that you're going to actually be able to pursue. So speak to yourself like someone who deserves the recognition that your gifts are bringing to the surface. On the 11th, we see Mars entering into your sign. So, the energy's here. You are energized, my beautiful friend. So bringing this noticeable active energy increase, some more motivation. It's been months that you've been focusing a lot on external responsibilities. And now you're ready to put this attention back on yourself. This transit can be incredibly empowering. So if you find yourself in a position where you feel like you can take action on your goals, particularly if they felt slow or postponed or something like this, you want to get back to making changes in your health or your appearance, a fitness routine, or you're just advocating for yourself. This is that. Now, Mars is still Mars. So Mars, particularly in your sign, can make emotions more immediate, like they're fiery, right? You notice yourself becoming less patient. You're, well, in a good way. If it's not in alignment with your values, you're a little bit quicker to say, no thanks, right? That's great. But it's important. This can lead to a lot of breakthroughs for you, but it is worth remembering that not every frustration that happens when Mars is in your sign deserves an immediate reaction. Mars is going to ask you to choose courage over conflict and have the conflict courageously if it must be had. On the 12th, here we go. We've got our eclipse for the month. Now, this is going to be a solar eclipse happening in our vibration of Leo. So bringing everything back to the second house. It's a very busy second house time for you right now. So your mind is on your money and your money's on your mind. I'm from a cool generation. Okay. Personal resource. Making the most of really important financial turning points is how we want to really use this energy. Now, for you, it is entering a new chapter, but it's a new chapter around having the courage to use your gifts to earn your living, right? And understanding the value of those skills, those talents, and how you're going to earn your living. For some of you, I think that this eclipse is going to coincide with that, with some kind of promotion, some kind of raise, new business, a pricing change, money's coming in, right? There's some opportunity to monetize your talents. And maybe before they were just like a hobby, and now you get to monetize them. But before this financial shift can kind of set and take in, I think something more important has to change first, and that is your relationship with money. That's your relationship with your own worth. So again, this eclipse, I think, puts you in the hot seat and the loving hot seat to say, do you believe that your gifts, your skills, your talents are valuable enough for someone else to pay for you to help them find a solution? And that question can be incredibly and surprisingly uncomfortable to some people, because many of us were taught that you have to wait for validation. You have to wait until someone gives you permission. You have to wait until you feel expert enough. Please, if everybody waited till they felt like they were an expert, we would have nothing. We would have no cool things. But the Leo eclipse gently, I think, in a very rough way, interrupts this pattern. Your gift is not valuable because somebody applauded them. It's because they are your gifts and you're seeing how they can help people. Now, on the 22nd, we're going to see the sun enters into the vibration of Virgo, lighting up your third house space. As the sun enters into Virgo, it brings light, heat, life, and vitality. So we're motivated in this area. So again, your attention now is shifting towards communication, learning, writing, teaching. Things with your siblings may come up. Everyday interactions and conversations you're motivated to dig into. So it's a wonderful time to begin to write or teach something, getting a little bit more into networking, starting something new. But Virgo here also wants discernment. So it's going to help you to communicate what you need to communicate with greater clarity. So listen, if there are conversations, copy, marketing, writing that you've been avoiding, this transit over the next 4 weeks is going to support you approaching them thoughtfully rather than emotionally. Okay, sometimes saying less communicates more. I don't know anything about that. On the 25th, we've got Mercury now coming home into domicile into Virgo. So going to join the sun here in this third house. I wouldn't be surprised if you're signing contracts, recording videos, really reconnecting with your neighbors, neighborhood, something like this. Either way, your mind becomes rapid, sharp, and discerning. Ask questions. I'm telling you, from the 25th of August on, ask questions and ask people that you're meeting questions about them and give them a chance to open up to you. Ask questions about paperwork you're maybe going to sign. Ask questions. One conversation can change the entire direction of your life. On the 28th, we've got a lunar eclipse happening in Pisces. This is our last one in the Pisces-Virgo eclipse cycle for now. So at the lunar eclipse, it's going to light up your 9th house space, publishing, marketing, broadcasting, spirituality, international travel, legal things, teaching, your overall worldview, right? Your big thinking lives here. And the eclipse is going to ask you to release some old beliefs because they have been limiting the growth factor right? And sometimes those beliefs come from all sorts of places. They come from family, they come from culture, they come from painful experiences that convince you that you had to be smaller, life had to be smaller than maybe what your heart really wanted. Or perhaps you've been telling yourself that your dreams are really realistic and you're finding out that it was unrealistic. You know, I also want to say here at this eclipse, because it asks us to step out on so much faith, that if it is necessary, it's not too late to start again. It's not too late to go back to school. The travel doesn't need to wait. Write that book that's not practical, right? I really think that there's going to be some space if you find yourself stuck in trusting and moving in the faith with your divine power to walk you into this next era of your life. There's going to be a space to question the stories that you're living by and ask, who taught you that? And furthermore, do you still believe them? All right, now some of you, I'm just going to say this and we're going to leave this here, but I think that this eclipse is also going to bring some opportunities that really are involving some kind of international connection, right? You got to let go of an outdated belief. And when you do, this like international connection will flourish. As we are going to close out the month Cancer on the 31st, we've got the tutors in a pleasant conversation with each other. Jupiter is trining Saturn, so this will bring in a conversation between your second house and your 10th house. And this is such a beautiful trine because it creates a pocket of ease for you between your income and talents and your personal resources. And then Saturn in your 10th house of career, which is your reputation, your long-term achievements. So as we're leaving August, this is your build lasting success, whatever success means to you. And I want to be very clear. If success means building that public business, great. If success means you want to change your reputation in your home, you're maybe more calm, more relaxed, more receiving, what is the thing that makes you feel like you have purpose and you're ready to have some long-term success with that? Because the confidence and the financial opportunities that have been developing throughout the rest of the month now start to they find a pretty practical direction to be going in. So don't chase the quick wins. Be encouraged to build something that will continue to support whatever you believe your purpose is for years to come, okay? Together, these planets really create some nice discipline and optimism together. And I think by the time we get to the end of the month, it's always nice to be re-encouraged to engage these things. As August comes to a close, beautiful Cancerian friends, you'll likely really recognize that the greatest achievement you've done all month wasn't just about the money. That might feel good and be like you get it. But I think it's going to be taking the time to do the work to believe that what you are bringing to the new earth table really has value. And once you believe that, Cancer, you're a cardinal sign. The rest of us better look out, because as soon as you get started, your life is going to reflect it and we're all going to benefit from it. All right, Cancers, I love you a ton. Have a great month. Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful Leos, and welcome to your horoscope for August of 2026. And happy birthday. It's a beautiful time to be celebrating the second half of Leo season. But listen, this month does become a little bit more intense, and intense does not equal bad, but it does become a little bit more intense for you because we've got a solar eclipse that's happening in your sign. We've got Mercury coming into your sign. We've also got this space for you, Leo, where you're kind of rewriting a story that you've been telling yourself about yourself. So this is not just a month of like changing the ideals either, but I think that there are some changing circumstances, and they're really tied to who you believe that you are now. We've got a busy month, so let's jump in and talk about what's going on. Now, right here on the 3rd, we've got Chiron stationing retrograde right here at 0 degrees of Taurus. Now, as Chiron is coming into its retrograde, it's going to invite you, first of all, to revisit some old wounds, but they're connected to your career, something about your career, your reputation, your public purpose. We see you do this in public. Something about this is quite public for you. So you're going back over and you are revisiting that at this particular point, and you're kind of like, whether you have believed that your work is valuable enough, or whether you're qualified to lead, or maybe you're just looking for work and this has been a pain point for some time. Chiron is trying to remind you here that your greatest authority, Leo, is going to grow from the place that you've learned through experience rather than feeling like you need to be the perfect candidate, okay? So keep that in mind. What do you already know? Just lean into what you already know. Now, in an evolutionary way, I think that this transit in general, in Taurus, fellow fixed energy, is really encouraging you, Leo, to redefine what does success mean to you. If 5 years ago, success really had a very particular picture, does it mean the same thing today? Because the healing may actually come from releasing the need to meet an old story of success. So let me know how that's going for you in the comment section. When we get to the 6th, we see Venus entering into the vibration of Libra where it's in domicile. This will light up your 3rd house space of communication, learning, connections, networking, short distance travel. Siblings are also in here as well. Now, as Libra comes and is just gliding into one of her home signs, remember, Venus is not hustle. Venus is calling in. So there's this calling in and bringing of grace, of diplomacy, and it's all surrounded to your communication. So some ways that you are communicating, or maybe you needed to negotiate something, this is going to become smoother. Any kind of conversation, even ones with relationships with siblings, these just get a little tint and a little hint of Venusian to them. So look at where your social circle may also be widening a little based on new communication that you've got going on. When we get to the 9th, now we've got Mercury entering into the vibration of Leo as well. Now, this is, of course, lighting up your 1st house space. So this is when you get the gift of gab. Right? Your voice is coming forward. You are being encouraged to speak, to think. You are somehow becoming more visible based on things that you are thinking and saying. But I like Mercury coming here as well because it does increase your confidence. Other people may naturally be looking to you for ideas or direction or information. Since Mercury is moving through your 1st house, think about it like this. Your personal message, whatever that happens to be, is your greatest asset for the month. And this includes your body language. This includes how you're styling yourself and you're presenting yourself for the vibration that you would like to engage. On the 11th, we've got Mars entering into the vibration of Cancer. This will light up your 12th house space. Now, anytime Mars comes to the 12th house space, the first thing I tell you is make sure that you are getting all the extra energy out of your body. If it's highly emotional, you're feeling stirred up, make sure you are in movement and some kind of action, some kind of deep breathing, like you're getting it out of your system. Also, Mars in your 12th house can disrupt your sleep, right? It gets busy. The dream life gets busy. Your healing and processing of emotional things or unfinished experiences, or you're trying to release some kind of burden. These things become a bit more intense when Mars comes into the 12th house space. Now, where you have really amazing use of Mars back here is anything you needed to do behind the scenes. Are you journaling? Are you meditating? Are you finishing a project or some kind of something to do with home or your family? These would be great uses for Mars in this particular area. But Mars is also Mars. So if there is conflict to be had, something that, has been an internal, inner world kind of struggle, you can feel that intensify when Mars gets into this position. So just keep this in mind. Now, I would highly encourage you, though, as we're experiencing this transit, do not ignore your exhaustion or the times that you need to sleep. And don't suppress the emotion, okay? When we get to the 12th, here's where we've got this solar eclipse happening at 20 degrees of Leo. Of course, lighting up your 1st house space. Now, as we experience this eclipse, it marks a more impactful and more intense level of your own new beginning, your identity, right? Eclipses often accelerate the next chapter of life. And because this one's falling in your first house, you might honestly feel like you're stepping into a new version of yourself, but like you stepped from one room into the other very quickly. You know what I mean? So evolutionarily, one of the things that's happening is you are just shedding an old identity, and it is precious. This is precious time. I want you to lean into that because there are some things that just no longer reflect who this Leo is. And this eclipse is going to ask you to stop performing that version, particularly if you were doing it for some kind of approval. Start to live this genuine expression. And it becomes less about who people expect you to be or who you've been being because you expected yourself to be something else, and more about who you truly are. So enjoy the reinvention, the new launching, the embracing your own leadership and becoming visible. There would be a high level of visibility under this as well. And remember, it can take about 6 months for this to fully unfold itself. When we get to the 22nd, Leo season is over, my beautiful friend, and it's time for Virgo season. This will light up your second house space of money, resources, self-worth. So all of your attention now, that light, heat, that vitality is turned into this second house area. So now you're a little bit more concerned with your security, building something that's going to last, getting into your finances. August is a lot less at this point of the month about recognition, any of these recognition, and it's more about being earthy, being Virgo. You want to create stable foundations here. So make sure as this transit is going on, if you do need to create that budget, you need to improve your pricing, you need to organize your finances, some kind of long-term strategy, this would be the time to be in that particular energy. On the 25th, Mercury is now going to enter Virgo. And as we experience this, again, your second house becomes lit up because now we've got Mercury and the Sun in the second house. And this is going to sharpen that financial thinking, contracts, negotiations, bookkeeping, budgeting, all of the words that have to do with money, strategic planning. These are all in your favor at this time. Now, on the 28th, we have got a lunar eclipse happening at 4 degrees of Pisces, and this is going to light up your 8th house space of intimacy and assets. So any place you have transformation, intimacy, trust, shared resources, this is what is being lit up. This is the last eclipse in the Virgo Pisces axis. So we've done about 18 months worth of work in this particular area, Leo. So this is not new information. Instead, it's bringing around your opportunity to end, acknowledge, and adjust something that is coming from the base of having new emotional roots. You've had emotional transformation and you have become, I genuinely believe you have become more deeply aware of your life surrounding intimacy and trust and holding your power, giving your power away, the way you share your energy, your finances, the spaces in you that have needed that psychological healing and conversation. So at this eclipse, I think you have more of the encouragement to just go on ahead and release those attachments that they've been quietly kind of limiting your growth, and now you don't need them. Sometimes the truest freedom, I think, Leo, comes not because you gained something new, but just because you went, okay, I can let that go. That doesn't support my evolution anymore. And that's what I think that this eclipse is going to get out of you and breathe into you over this next 6 months. Now, as we're going to close out August, we've got such a lovely trine between our tutors having a conversation up there in the sky. So we have got Saturn and Jupiter and Saturn coming together in a trine at 13 degrees of Leo and Aries. So we have a fire trine. Now, this is such a supportive aspect because as the tutors come together, they create flow between who you are and also between your desire and your readiness to expand, whether this is through higher education, traveling, publishing, language. There's some kind of long-term vision here. So the balance between your expansion and your discipline and your ability to do this, I think, is gorgeous at this time, because Jupiter is really encouraging you to dream bigger than you ever have before. It's like, let's go, let's get out there. And Saturn is providing the structure that you need here. It's like you're getting the structure that will make those next dreams possible. So in that, you are learning, Leo, that there is this confidence that comes not from luck. It's not just from Jupiter's luck, but it comes from the small consistencies, that this is where the growth is really at. And this is where I think I'm going to see you just at that next level with your confidence. So it's an excellent time if you're ready to enroll in some kind of course of training that has to do with higher education. You're ready to publish that YouTube channel, that podcast, that book, teach, travel, expand your business internationally, whatever it is. These are all going to be reflections of the person, not that you're becoming, but that you have become, who is capable of making those decisions now. All right, my beautiful Leos, I hope you have a gorgeous rest of your birthday month. I love you a ton, and I very much so look forward to seeing you every week. And of course, I'll see you in September. Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful Virgo friends, and welcome to your horoscope for August of 2026. And happy birthday, Virgo. We're coming into Virgo season, so it means that August is, of course, a very transitional month for you, because we move into your next annual celebration. So it's a beautiful time. I hope that you are going to enjoy the first part of the month, finishing up your Leo season, meaning a lot is happening in a quiet part of your chart, asking you to stay in the slowdown, the release, the reflection, and listen before you're getting ready to move forward. And then as the Sun and Mercury, your ruling planet, come forward into your sign the rest of the month, we can shift that energy quite dramatically and move from that inward season of preparation to now a very visible season of renewal. Now, we're also doing that with 2 eclipses coming under our belt, one of them in the opposite sign of you, your Pisces energy. So there's plenty to chat about this month. All right, Virgo, into the month we go. Right at the beginning of the month, we're going to see that Chiron is stationing retrograde here at 0 degrees of Taurus. Now, this lights up your 9th house space, publishing, marketing, broadcasting, your beliefs, your worldview, education, things that have meaning. Now, as Chiron is stationing and it's retrograde here, it's beginning this period of internal healing connected to your beliefs, your worldview, to these expanded areas. So Virgo, you might begin to question ideas that really once made you feel like they had stability, right? Like, this idea makes me feel stable. I've built a life on this belief, and now it's not reflecting that anymore. I truly believe that for some of you, some old wounds around your education or what education meant will be resurfacing. And perhaps it's something like you were made to feel like you weren't intelligent enough or qualified enough or knowledgeable enough or something like this. And now it's coming back around and you're like, I'm more than qualified. But it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt first, right? For others, the wound may be a wound that has to involve something with religion or culture or immigration. Maybe you're feeling disconnected from a larger sense of perspective, something like this. I think at a deeper place, your spirit is healing now the fear that you have to have the answer for everything before you're allowed to explore and to learn and be valuable and to teach. And so now, as Chiron is taking this retrograde, look for a space to revise beliefs. Return to whatever education you would like to. Heal those religious wounds and beliefs, and explore your new possibilities. As we get to the 6th, we're going to see that Venus enters into the vibration of Libra, lighting up your 2nd house space of money, value, self-worth. And as Venus comes to the 2nd house, we remember that Venus is not a hustle hard planet. Venus is coming into her home sign, bringing support, calling in receptivity into your 2nd house. This can be such a lovely period for improving your relationship, Libra, with money, and recognizing the value of what you naturally bring to the table by being who you are. Because Venus represents this attraction, this harmony, this receptivity. You may also find that there are more financial opportunities that are coming through social connections that you have, or some kind of communication. You're communicating something, but you're doing it through beauty and design. So I would be really curious to hear from you, Virgos, what this is even bringing up for you as I'm saying it. Some of you are going to do just the natural things where you attract a new client. Someone gives you a really thoughtful gift, and I hope with your whole being you receive it. You're gonna raise your standards. You're gonna raise your rates, or develop something that is a more appealing offer of what you have to offer in some way. On the 9th, we see Mercury entering into the vibration of Leo, so busying up this 12th house space in your chart of rest, healing, the things we're doing behind the scenes. And as Mercury comes into the 12th house, first of all, I want to remind you that our thinking is turning a bit more inwardly, because we're working on things in a quieter area of the chart. But what can also be happening is your mind is going at 10,000 miles a minute at 3 a.m. and you're feeling awake and alive. Your dreams, your instincts, different body sensations, emotional reactions, you're having them when you're supposed to be sleeping. So kind of keep this in mind as Mercury comes to this area of your chart. But I think on a more personal level, since Mercury is your ruling planet, this is a chance to practice allowing your mind to become quiet. And because Mercury is in a fire sign, I like to hold this vision of in the 12th house space, you're sitting in some kind of quiet, maybe meditative space, whatever that looks like for you. And you're literally using that fire to burn away the noise and make space for your reflections, right? You're being more occupied with thinking about your dreams, your memories, your unfinished conversations that need to be happening as the month is going to continue on. Now, I would just like to remind you, it's not necessarily the best time during this transit over this next couple weeks to try to force some kind of immediate answer. There may be a fair amount of silence before the clarity or the answer arrives to you. So let that be known, okay? Just let that be known. When we get to the 11th, we see Mars is going to enter into the vibration of Cancer, lighting up your 11th house space, friends, social grouping, social media, community, your future long-term goals and designs for yourself. So you might feel more motivated. You're not only feeling the motivation, but you are in more action. And you're motivated to connect with other people. You have a desire, or you want to build a team, or you want to join a cause or a group or an organization. You're taking action in some way that you have a dream or you have a vision for yourself, and you realize it is by being connected to others and participating in community is how you're going to get there. Now, Mars in Cancer acts through emotions, okay? This means that you're looking at, maybe you've become a bit protective of your friends or people you consider family. And Mars has got you in a bit defense, right? You're in the defensive position for some reason. So acknowledge that because Mars is acting through Cancer, through the emotions, you might feel a bit more sensitive where your groupings or your friends or your tribe is involved. So that transit can reveal the frustrations that are happening there. The other way you can look at this is if you've been doing too much for a community and you have not been receiving the care and the security in return, resentment can rise to the surface, and you might need to establish some kind of clearer boundary or reconsider if this is the right group for you as a whole, okay? It's all right. There's going to be plenty going on with this particular area. I would still be using it for networking, for collaborating, for growing your audience, for that future planning. Just be mindful of how you're engaging it. Now, when we get to the 12th, we've got a solar eclipse happening at 20 degrees of Leo. This, again, is in the 12th house spaces. So this is for you a pretty important turning point in the month. Falling in your 12th house, we're resetting this area of your chart. This is governing our endings, our rest, healing, solitude, unconsciousness, or behind the scenes. Just these things that are unfolding in places that we can't see until we can see them. A solar eclipse, however, is trying to open a new chapter, but in the 12th house, the beginning may feel like it needs an ending first. You may be being asked, Virgo, to release an identity or a set of habits. Maybe there's an emotional attachment, things that you are doing that were about self-sabotage before this next chapter can really emerge and come forward. And in that, the eclipse can increase your need for rest. So I really want you paying attention, Virgo. I think that you already do, but I just really want you to be paying a little bit more attention because your body may be communicating that a pace that you have maintained is no longer sustainable. Virgo, oftentimes you can try to solve exhaustion with better organization. But the eclipse is telling you that some things don't need to be organized. They need to be completely let go. Okay? All right, my beautiful friends. When we get to the 22nd, the sun enters into the vibration of Virgo, and happy, happy, happy birthday. This is bringing light, heat, life, and vitality into your first house. Your identity, your body, your personal direction. So as the sun shifts here, the energy shifts quite significantly as well. You know, you've had weeks in this private reflection 12th house space, and now the sun is here in your sign. It's your personal solar season, and you're like, yes, let me be visible. Yes, let me be energized. I'm ready to take a little bit of action. And I encourage you to greet this season with a bit of ceremony because it is your own personal reset that you're getting for the year. Your attention is turning towards even how am I presenting myself to the world? What are the goals that I want to go after in these next 12 months? And how do I even want my appearance to be in alignment with that? Right? It's an opportunity to ask for what you need, be clear on what you want, and then align yourself with the kind of people who support the life that you're saying that you want moving forward. So for those of you who are about to get on that new fitness routine or take it to the next level, or you're looking for your new wardrobe ideas, you're going to take those headshots, you know, whatever it is, Virgo season is definitely your time to go on ahead and get it. Then on the 25th, we'll have Mercury entering into Virgo. So now you've got the sun and your ruling planet in your first house, and you are sharp. Right? Your thinking gets clearer. It's sharper. It's more decisive. Mercury's been traveling through your 12th house. So for some of you Virgos too, I think you're going to finally have language for something that you've been working on it behind the scenes, or you've kind of been processing it. And now you're ready to speak, to write, to teach, to make that decision, to take the new direction, whatever it is. As this energy comes in with Mercury and the sun here, it is a powerful transit for you to get into that planning, editing, reorganizing, having a conversation that needs to be had. But the thing about this transit versus other times in the year or the month is that this is language that is precise. And it can also be that what you've learned and come through in your 12th house tour, people are showing up to you and asking for advice about it. Keep me posted on that one, Virgo, okay? On the 28th, we've got a lunar eclipse happening at 4 degrees of Pisces. Now, this is going to be the last one in the Virgo Pisces axis, and we have been working with Virgo Pisces for about the last 18 months. So you are familiar with relationships, my beautiful Virgo friends. And now in your 7th house of conscious chosen one-on-one relationships, that's marriage, business, clients, any one-on-one partnership that you have chosen. Something within a significant relationship in your life is about to end, acknowledge, or be adjusted. So the lunar eclipse here is bringing the emotional truth to the surface. And in Pisces, the truth may involve forgiveness. It may involve seeing some level of disappointment or where there's been idealization or an unclear boundary, but it requires compassion, right? Because you're going to finally see a relationship for what it is rather than what you've maybe been hoping it's going to be. And that's okay, because what it can also lead to is allowing a partnership to deepen. You know, for some of you, you are going to make a commitment. You are going to commit deep. You're going to sign the contract. You're going to get married. You're going to collaborate. You're going to become a more emotionally vulnerable version of yourself because you're able to trust that the universe has got your back now and that you can do that. And for others, we'll have the exposure of where the confusion, avoidance, and imbalance is at. Whatever it is, the Virgo Pisces axis that we have been working on has been asking us to balance and bring to the surface our discernment discernment and compassion. You do not need to abandon your standards in order to be loving, and you also don't need to analyze everything to death before allowing yourself to be vulnerable and just feel all the feels. As we're going to close out this month on the 31st, we've got Jupiter at 13 degrees of Leo, trining Saturn at 13 degrees of Aries. So we've got a nice fire trine happening for us. And it's in support, it's in flow. Now, Jupiter is expanding whatever it touches, and in Leo is back here in your 12th house space. And then Saturn gives form and discipline and maturity wherever it goes, and this is in your 8th house space. So together, these two tutors are helping you turn a lot of this inner healing and release that you have done into some kind of real lasting change. You know, like something you've been working on behind the scenes. Now you're able to have a more stable financial structure with it, or a more stable emotional structure, something like that. You know, for example, you decide to enter into therapy, and now as you're meeting this trine, you see and you're able to actually establish those healthier relationship boundaries, right? Or you've been working on a private business idea behind the scenes, and now you're able to find a financial backer. Or you've been doing some emotional healing, and that's making intimacy more possible, right? So whatever you've been doing in the dark, it's coming to the light, and it's getting some structure from Saturn, which is creating an amazing set of energy for you to continue to transform what has maybe been painful or behind the scenes into wisdom and into stability. All right, my absolutely beautiful Virgo friends, I love you a ton. I hope you have a beautiful birthday month, and I look forward to hearing all about it in the comments section down below. Hello, my absolutely brilliant Libra friends, and welcome to your horoscope for August of 2026. Now, Libra, this month is going to place a stronger emphasis on not only your relationships, but communities and long-term goals, something about your career direction. But then there is also this conversation about something going on privately in your emotional life. We've got eclipses happening this month, so plenty to talk about. Let's get in here and see what is going on. As we're coming into August on the 3rd, we've got Chiron stationing retrograde at 0 degrees of Taurus. Now, Libra, this is lighting up your 8th house space of intimacy and assets, okay, or shared resources as well. So Chiron stationing retrograde here, it begins this deeper period for you around healing these areas, particularly at the level of emotional vulnerability, things around trust, the way that you share your resources, whether those resources be your body, your finances, your energy, intimacy, grief, power. These are all brought to the surface. And this transit, as we're going through the retrograde of it, can reveal to you where maybe you've struggled to feel safe depending on something or someone else, or allowing another person or resource to depend on you. So the wound here, particularly in Taurus, a fellow Venusian energy, can be deeply connected to money or to resources. So if you've experienced this instability, and particularly if that instability came through debt, divorce, inheritance, some kind of financial control, right? Unequal contributions in a relationship, that financial abuse, something like that, these can be at the surface. For others, it may not be so much on the monetary point, but it can be the deeper issues that involve real, vulnerable emotional trust. You might want that closeness, but you're fearing what happens if you reveal too much and you actually lean into it. Now, from an evolutionary perspective, I think what's happening is your spirit is healing the fear that closeness will automatically lead to loss, or it will automatically lead to control, or will automatically lead to disappointment. And instead, you're being invited to do this healing by understanding that vulnerability is not the same as weakness, right? And that to have the true intimacy, it requires a pretty high level of discernment, but it also requires a high level of courage to let yourself be known. So Chiron's going to ask you to examine some of the defenses that have been created in this area, and they have been created to survive, not because you're good, bad, they've been created to survive, but then you get to decide whether or not they are still protecting you or if they are preventing you from having that next level deeper connection. When we get to the 6th, Venus is coming into your sign. So it's coming home court advantage, and it's your ruling sign. This is a brilliant season. This can bring just such a beautiful sense of renewal to you. You know, your confidence, your appearance, your relationships, your personal presence and magnetism just kind of goes up and through the roof. You don't get this any other time of the year. So this transit to me feels particularly supportive for you being just the natural you. You know, you become more aware about, first of all, how you present yourself, and that vibration is attracting and calling in some kind of attention, some kind of value. So how do you want other people to be experiencing you? This is a wonderful time to refresh that wardrobe. Update whatever your branding is, right? Because we're all walking around with branding all of the time. Change your hairstyle. Take those new photographs. Whatever it is that gives you the grace to feel like you are of your most beautiful self and calling in the values you would like to be experiencing in your life. Venus in your first house will also ask you to stop waiting for anybody else to confirm your value. You are learning to embody what you're already empowered with, your beauty, your harmony, your self-respect. And that is from within, not without, right? So remember, while you're experiencing this transit, it's the most natural thing in the world. And that this attraction and calling in what you value is starting with you. Just accept you. What do you want? What is really your style? And as long as you're not changing anything about you solely to remain appealing to someone else, it's going to be working out for you, friend. On the 9th, we've got Mercury entering into the vibration of Leo, lighting up your 11th house space of community, friendships, future goals. As Mercury comes here into your 11th house, the conversation about your future might become much more active, or you feel ready to share ideas or have support for your ideas with some kind of larger community, right? Also, though, this is Leo energy. This is fire leadership energy. So your voice can start to carry more authority in groups during this transit. So if you get asked to lead the conversation, the workshop, organize the gathering, if you have the capacity to do so, do it. Say yes. This would be a beautiful benefit to you because you're at a place where you have so much magnetism going for you this month. And then Mercury in Leo is going to allow you and support you to speak your vision with courage. You know, you've got a spirit that is already ready to go right at what it wants. So give it a name, call it out loud. When we get to the 11th, Mars enters into Cancer. Fellow cardinal sign. Mars coming to Cancer lights up your 10th house space, career, reputation, public direction, your soul level calling. Mars is where the action's at. You will be in motion in this area of your chart because it's bringing a movement. It's bringing an urgency to this area of your chart. So if you feel highly motivated to advance yourself in public in some way, or you're feeling like I want to make a significant change in how I'm seen in the world, the work that I'm doing, what I feel called to do, you know, the sayings that go before or after my name when people are talking about me in public, this is a Martian energy. But we want to also keep in mind that where Mars is acting from this month is emotional. It's emotional conviction. Mars is traveling through Cancer. So you might become protective or defensive of your career even, right? This is my business. This is my reputation I have worked hard to build. So that's okay. Just remember, Mars is Mars, but it'll show you at a deep level what's worth fighting for to you. But you might also feel a little bit more driven to take it a different way and create some kind of professional security for yourself and your family. But I just don't want us to look down our nose, because Mars is going to bring conflict where conflict needs to be had. If you've been suppressing some kind of frustration with an employer, client, colleague, professional tasks that need to be done, or responsibilities, those feelings during a Mars transit get a lot harder to ignore. So your task is to use the anger as information rather than allowing it to control your actions, right? As we get to the 12th, now we've got a solar eclipse happening at 20 degrees of Leo. So make sure you check that 20 degrees of Leo against your actual chart. This eclipse in the 11th house for you, friends, community, long range dreams, directions, all of these things, it's opening the chapter of beginnings here. This is the area of your chart that wants to respond to your hopes for the future. And the eclipse is bringing a new beginning. But those beginnings might require you to leave an old social identity behind. You know, if you've outgrown a friendship or an organization or an audience, or even if you had a goal and a vision and it really mattered deeply, and you're just finding it doesn't align anymore, the deep honesty of this eclipse is going to come to your consciousness. You know, at the same time, you might be introduced to people who are much more aligned with the person that you are right now. And you're like, yes, I need to go over here. Take my membership money. You know what I mean? Or they're having a conversation in a different way. The eclipse is going to help you adjust your perspective here. And in a sense, I just want you to know, over the next 6 months, this energy is giving you a space to consider whether your current community supports who you are authentically, not necessarily who you are naturally, but who you are authentically. All right. Now, when we get to the 22nd, we'll see the sun come into Virgo, and this is your annual rest and retreat as we see the sun bring light, heat, life, and motivation into the rest, closure, spiritual renewal area of your chart. So as the sun moves here, it's beginning this final chapter of your personal solar year before it's time for birthday time. So call in, if you need it, call it in, the space for greater rest, greater reflection, privacy, emotional and spiritual recovery. It's not a sign that you are losing any kind of momentum. It's a sign that you understand where you're at in your own cycle. It's a necessary period of integration after 12 months. You have been you for 12 months, for a whole year, you know, and the intense social, professional, personal development of not only the month, but the year. The 12th house is asking you now to acknowledge what is ending. Let it go. Complete the project, release the attachment, process the grief of the year. What happened for you this year that you loved? What happened for you this last year and it just broke your heart? Even if you were the one who broke your own heart. Look at a habit that can't go forward and forgive yourself quickly. Quickly rest, retreat, close. On the 25th, we've got Mercury now coming into Virgo as well. So it's joining the sun in your 12th house. And because Mercury is strong in Virgo as its rulership, your inner observer is getting really precise, right? It's spot on. It's like discernment, and here's a pattern. So you might really start to understand patterns that were kind of previously, they were difficult for you to put a full name to it, or they just weren't revealed enough. So this is an excellent transit for doing the interpretation, allowing the research to bubble to the surface. Anything also going on behind the scenes, like if you are working on a project, particularly something very intellectual and it's unfinished, writing, a dream interpretation, something like this would be a great transit. The challenge of Mercury in the 12th is getting trapped inside of mental loops, especially if you're trying to solve something that requires emotional processing rather than analysis. This can be tricky, but you just want to remember that not every problem, first of all, you don't need to understand the why of all of it. And also, they don't always need an immediate answer, okay? On the 28th, we have got a lunar eclipse happening at 4 degrees of Pisces, lighting up your 6th house space of work, health, daily routines, the way you're of service, your daily responsibilities. So this is our last eclipse in the Pisces Virgo axis. So over the last 18 months, we've done a fair amount of work here. You've gone towards your absolute destiny. Something in you is incredibly different in your spirit. But something in your everyday life might be reaching a culmination point where it needs to be ended, acknowledged, or adjusted. Or something is showing up for you in your day-to-day life, and it is literally impossible for it to continue on in its current form. Now, the eclipse is going to reveal the emotional truth of it. And in Pisces, you might be recognizing where your schedule has become unclear, or overly sacrificial or exhausting. You're helping everybody else. You're neglecting your own physical rest or emotional needs or your ability to receive without guilt. Sit down on your butt and enjoy resting without guilt, right? So these are things we can see come to the surface, but in more practical ways as well. This eclipse can bring changes involving your health, your employment situation, coworkers. Maybe you're a caregiver or you're taking on caregiving responsibilities for something. The systems that we use in our everyday organized life, we could see some shifting to this energy. So be looking at, try to not ignore symptoms that are presenting themselves to you, but instead any of the health changes, the daily transitions that need to happen to bring more clarity, more nuance of the spirit, more lightness, where you are literally in your life wearing the world as more of a loose garment. Those would be things to pay attention to. On the 31st, as we are going to close out this month, Jupiter is coming into a trine with Saturn. They're going to be in a fire trine at 13 degrees of Leo and Aries, respectively. So make sure you check those degrees on your chart. This is going to light up your 7th house, your 11th house, with Jupiter in Leo, and your 7th house with Saturn in Aries. But this is a flowing fire trine. It's a supportive aspect connecting these two houses. So your space of community and friendship and your future goals and your house of conscious, chosen, committed relationships are coming into a flow with one another. Jupiter is expanding your vision and your social reach from the 11th house. But Saturn is asking you to build in a mature, dependable way. That means mature, dependable relationships. And together, as these two are flowing together, what I see is an alliance. It's helping you create some kind of alliance, and it is significant and it is important to your future goals. So it's an excellent day, couple days even as the energy spills out, to formalize some kind of collaboration, sign the long-term contract, establish a business partnership, commit to working with someone whose skills either complement yours or teach you to up your game, right? This can be good for romantic relationships as well, because you're becoming a bit more serious or making plans for the future. So whatever it is, I'm looking forward to seeing how you use this energy to create these collaborations in the way that suits right in your chart. Now, I would heavily avoid agreeing to any kind of commitment that is vague, right? That is vague. If it's like, yeah, we might be, no, what are we doing? That is Saturn. Be Saturn in Aries. Saturn is retrograde at this time as well. So look over it. There might be some agreements you're already in that are vague. Let's get those crystal clear, because what we're looking to do here is to choose reliable partners, clarifying any agreements that we're in. That includes your car note, if that's what you've got going on, and committing to relationships that are shared support of each other's growth. All right, my absolutely beautiful Libra friends, I hope you have a gorgeous month. Let me know how it's going in the comment section down below. Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful Scorpio friends, and welcome to your horoscope for August of 2026. Now, August is a powerful month for you, Scorpio, in terms of your public direction, your relationships. There's a long-term vision with creativity that is creeping in here as well. And the month is going to open for us with really important questions, I think, about partnerships and about trust. And then we'll move into the space of the eclipses. So let's jump in and let's talk about that and see what energies we have to work with. All right, Scorpio, at the beginning of the month on the 3rd, we've got Chiron stationing retrograde at 0 degrees of Taurus. And this is big news. It is big news. It's a little body that has got big news for us. Because as Chiron is stationing retrograde here, Taurus is your 7th house of conscious, chosen one-on-one relationships. So it's partnerships, it's agreements, it's the places you are agreeing to make a commitment with someone, right? So this is already calling in a deeper cycle of healing around this area. Old wounds involving abandonment, rejection, loyalty, trust, or times that you were interacting with people and felt like the effort was unequal. These can be rising to the surface. For some Scorpios, this is just going to involve romantic relationships, whether it's an actual present romantic relationship or something is being called up to your attention. You know, if you recognize that you have been expecting a current partner to repair or tend to a wound that was created actually by someone from your past, this may come up for a review. Others, the issue might be through a business partnership or a client or some kind of contractual relationship where your value has not been fully respected. Now, when I sit deeply with this for you, I think that what is being called up and through is that your spirit, Scorpio, is healing this belief that closeness always has to involve struggle and fear and uncertainty, right? I think that Chiron here is giving us a space to ask your spirit to just examine the difference between protecting yourself and preventing connection. You know, you might search for betrayal, Scorpio, in some way, even if it is subtle, before it's even occurred because you're trying to avoid being surprised again. So I would encourage you, as this transit is going on, whatever rises to the surface, know that it is coming to the surface at this time in your life because you have the skills and the tools that you need to handle it. You're not offered what you can't handle. And you're certainly not offered something you can't handle without the universe giving you your helpers to help you handle it. That's the way that it goes. So I would encourage you, be clear with your expectations. Really communicate expectations clearly. Evaluate your agreements and the places you're making commitment, like evaluate them honestly. And allow trustworthy people to come into your life and demonstrate their consistency over time, and you receive it, right? Receive their consistency. Receive people being trustworthy in your world and celebrate that. On the 6th, we've got Venus entering into the vibration of Libra, and this is going to light up your 12th house space. Venus coming to the 12th house of healing, closure, you know, your private love, private attractions. Now listen, Venus in the 12th house can do some Venus in the 12th house kind of stuff. We're attracting that secret love. You remember that song? This can happen. This can happen when Venus enters into the 12th house and we're doing some stuff behind the scenes, okay? But other things that Venus can be attracting in here, particularly because Venus is in domicile, so very comfortable in Libra, is that it can bring a softness and a grace to this area of your life that maybe has felt emotionally, energetically, creatively heavy for a time. So rest, your dreams, healings, endings, things going on behind the scenes, you know, these are starting to get those soft edges squished down just a little bit. And if you're feeling a bit more private about your money, about beauty, about creativity, about something going on in a relationship and it is developing quietly, or you need time alone to understand what you even want before you're making anything public, the art, the relationship, any of it, right? Now, this transit going through the 12th house as well is really nice for releasing resentment, forgiving yourself, forgive quickly, but also making peace with some kind of an ending. Because at a spirit level, this learning that closure can be just as loving and as soft as being continually into holding on to something, right? Some of you, I do think this is the 12th house. There's something around like a former partner. There's something around a former partner or a former relationship, and you're able to get a little bit of closure there. On the 9th, we see Mercury moving into the vibration of Leo, lighting up your 10th house space of career, reputation, your public voice, something that we see you doing in public. And so as this area gets activated by such fire, don't be surprised if what you're doing or you're saying or how you're speaking, it has more authority, but it's gaining this greater sense of attention. Because this transit can do that. It's bringing a conversation, or it's bringing your words up and out. So you're having a conversation with a client or a manager or your employer, in general, and there's such authority on the table. For others of you, it's Leo season. It is still Leo season. So I think somebody's going to be making a professional announcement. We're going to hear that you're taking a different road, or you're coming out on your own, something like this. Or maybe you're going to interview for a different position, right? Either way, there's this clear explanation of where this area of your chart is going. What are you doing for business? What are you doing with this public title that you are carrying? On the 11th, we'll see that Mars enters into the vibration of Cancer, fellow water energy. And this will light up your 9th house space of publishing, marketing, broadcasting, higher education, travel, spirituality, law, your worldview, all of these things that expand us out. This is the 9th house. So you might feel compelled, and I literally mean that word, compelled or driven to expand yourself in some way, or to defend a belief that carries this deep Cancerian, so emotional meaning to you. Mars is where you'll be in action this month, because Mars in Cancer is going to act through the instinct and emotional conviction at the same time, right? So this can make you, one, really highly motivated to teach, write, study, travel, advocate for a cause. Love that. It can also make disagreements about religion, politics, education, morality. They are not only intense, but they can feel more personal than usual. So, from an evolutionary perspective, I think the spirit is asking you whether your beliefs help you grow or if they're just helping you defend and protect. So, you might be ready to challenge some kind of inherited worldview that you've got, or you're leaving a spiritual environment that you've been in for some time. Pursue knowledge that changes how you see and understand life in the world. Whatever it is, Mars is getting you into motion. Now, on the 12th, we've got this solar eclipse happening at 20 degrees of Leo, right up here in this 10th house space. So this is opening a major new chapter in your 10th house, that career, that identity, your legacy. And I think that this is one of the most significant professional turning points of your year, and potentially, a little bit longer in this 18-month cycle. Now, the solar eclipse is bringing the new beginnings, but it accelerates what's developing. So you honestly might be stepping into a new role. You're leaving an old position. You're getting this greater public recognition, or you realize that something you're doing, it's been your name maybe for even quite some time, and you're like, that doesn't really reflect who I am. You could be in the same old job and role and title, and you're doing it completely different. Either way, in Leo, in this fire energy, the eclipse is going to ask you to examine your relationship between power and visibility. And I'm telling you, if you haven't jumped into that Venus reset program so that you can be visible, this might be a great time to jump in. You hold tremendous influence, but often you might have been prepared previously to exercise that influence from behind the scenes. But Leo energy is going to ask you to become more visible. This is you being the sun. Take creative ownership and allow your work and your reputation to carry your name. When we get to the 22nd, the sun is going to enter into earthy Virgo, into your 11th house. Community, friends, social media, future long-range goals and aspirations you have for yourself. And I do think after the intensity of the eclipse, you might start asking, who's going to help me build this future that I think is emerging for me, this direction that I want to go? Who are my people, my tribe? Who do I need to learn from? And the sun here is going to also increase your visibility in community spaces. It's going to increase your motivation to be in these social spaces, even if it's just in your friendships. So don't be surprised if you find yourself getting more involved in associations, groups, social movements, online audience, group programs, something like this. From an evolutionary perspective, because I am an evolutionary astrologer, there's a learning here that power, yes, with great power comes great responsibility, but with that great power and responsibility, it doesn't need to be solitary. The South Node is going to continue to travel through Leo, so we're going to learn this fixed position of I got it is not necessarily the right mind frame anymore. The right community can strengthen your influence, and it can help you extend the reach of your work. On the 25th, we're going to see Mercury. Now, Mercury just gets on with it when Mercury is direct, right? Mercury is now going to move into Virgo, lighting up your 11th house space, joining the sun over here, and this sharpens your mind. Sharpens your mind, sharpens your plans, sharpens your ability to organize, collaborate, communicate, particularly in things that have long-term goals. So if you need to have a detailed discussion, or you needed to do detailed planning, or you needed to clear up roles or something like this is an excellent transit for doing that. But it's also excellent because it's like you understand how to be of service to the situation, whether it's past patterns and you're just analyzing the data of it, you're understanding how to translate what you've got to offer, your larger vision, to some kind of community in some way. Let me know what this is for you down below, Scorpio. All right, when we get to the 28th, we've got the lunar eclipse happening in Pisces. Now, this is going to be the last eclipse in the Pisces Virgo axis that we've been working in for about 18 months. And this is in your 5th house of joy, pleasure, play, romance, children, taking a risk. So as we're having this eclipse, something in this area wants to be ended, acknowledged, or adjusted. So this is a point of culmination. And there's going to be a request to acknowledge what's revealed or to release something. The eclipse reveals what can no longer remain unconscious. And in Pisces, this may involve a dream or an emotional connection, particularly to a child or something you thought was your baby, like a creative project or this creative longing. And it's shifting direction. There's this real question here, Scorpio, for you at this particular eclipse, and I think you're very well prepared for it because we've had 18 months to move towards this direction of understanding. But the eclipse, I think, here is asking you whether you're willing to experience joy without needing to control the outcome, that Virgo side that we've been working on releasing. There's an intensity that comes with being scorpionic. This is your gift to the world. But the Pisces waters remind us that creativity and love, they require a surrender. And that also requires discernment. I have to not be in love with this person or this project's potential, but rather what is in reality. Now, for some of you, this is astrological / intuitive. There's a creative project that you've been working on, and it's either being completed, you get it done, you're releasing it so we can see it, or in some way it's getting its recognition. Please let me know what that is for you in the comment section. Okay, as we're going to close out this month on the 31st, we've got a fire trine. And I love this because it's the tutor planets helping us learn through flow this time. Jupiter's at 13 degrees of Leo. Saturn's at 13 degrees of Aries. So this is a conversation flowing between your 10th house and your 6th house. Now, as there's this supportive trine between the tutors are helping us unfold the lessons inside of the professors, who are the outer planets, syllabus. Now, Jupiter here is it can bring professional opportunities or recognition or growth or some kind of new confidence in this area. But Saturn is asking, particularly in retrograde, whether your routine, your team, your habits, or your systems can actually support the expansion. So together, as they're in flow, they're going to help you build something that is sustainable, right? You could be receiving a promotion and developing a new daily schedule that allows you to meet the responsibilities and stay in your own flow while taking that promotion. Or, let's say it's something, you're an entrepreneur and you're growing your audience, but then you realize it's okay for me to hire support or to automate a process or, get on top of my production calendar, whatever this looks like. The opportunity is there, and then the restructuring to make sure you can really receive it, live in it, and be in the practical realities of it so that you can grow are also going to show up in your favor. All right, my beautiful Scorpios, let me know how the month goes down below. I want to hear every detail of it, so put it down there, and I will see you in September. Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful Sagittarius friends, and welcome to your horoscope for August of 2026, where Sagittarius, August is definitely a month of expansion, and we love that for you because this is the nature of the Sagittarian vibration, but there's also a huge piece of visibility, learning, and getting a bit more in touch with some emotional honesty that's coming up. Now, your ruling planet Jupiter is actually going to close the month in such a gorgeous trine to Saturn. And I hope that even at the beginning of this reading, before we get to the end of the month, you are reminded and assured that the biggest adventures of your life are honestly yet to come. And also that the biggest adventures of your life are built through consistent effort rather than these big leaps. It's eclipse month, so we have plenty to talk about and what's going to be shifting direction. So let's not waste any time and get in here and talk about what's happening this month. On the 3rd, we've got Chiron stationing. Let's just start it off like that. We've got Chiron stationing retrograde at 0 degrees of Taurus. Now, this is going to light up your 6th house, the house of health, daily routines, your wellness. So as Chiron has been traveling here in Taurus, we've just begun this initiation period of healing around your health, your mental health and well-being, your daily routine, daily responsibilities, relationships with work, maybe for some of you even becoming entrepreneurs in some way. Either way, what is being brought to your attention are some old patterns of where you have equated your worth with simply being productive, or believed that resting somehow meant you were falling behind. Now, I think for many Sagittarius friends, this transit is going to reveal those emotional wounds that are connected to different work environments that you've been in that have perpetuated this story. Or perhaps you've repeatedly taken on more than your fair share of responsibility. You struggled to ask for help, or you believed that you constantly needed to prove your competence, something like this, right? Others of you may honestly be going through a period or starting to notice the rumbling of a period where health patterns are asking for greater attention. Now, what's really, I think, happening as Chiron is taking the retrograde and going back is that your spirit is healing the belief that you have to earn your worth through constant productivity. Right? Instead, it's just an opportunity to prioritize your health, organize your schedule in some way that's very realistic, and remember that sustainable success requires sustainable habits, okay? On the 6th, we have Venus entering into the vibration of Libra, lighting up your 11th house space of friends, social spaces, community, future goals that you have for yourself. And as Venus comes into this 11th house, we remember that Venus is not a hustling planet. Venus is a calling in planet. So it's an excellent period for meeting people who are like-minded. joining an organization, attending a conference, being in some kind of collaboration. Maybe you have friendships that are already existing and you can smooth into them, love into them and strengthen them up. It's really nice because Venus is so heavy and attracting that I would remind you to create the community that you seek so that you can naturally attract people to you that are in the kind of community you would like to be in. And those are the people who appreciate you, Sagittarius. They appreciate your vision. They appreciate that beautiful Sagittarian optimism. Now, at a spirit level, there's such discovery with the softness and the power of Venus here. Is discovering those communities that genuinely support your future and where you want to go, because your future is not going to be built alone. And while Sagittarius can be the fire that values independence, I think that this is a transit this month that reminds you that that meaningful collaboration is going to be what actually expands your opportunities far beyond what you were even thinking you were going to accomplish by yourself. On the 9th, Mercury moves into fellow fire energy of Leo, and this lights up your 9th house base of publishing, marketing, broadcast, travel, international travel, higher education. It's a house of expansion. So as Mercury comes here, your curiosity is going to increase. Your desire to understand life from a broader perspective really becomes especially strong. So this is a transit as Mercury comes here. It really favors that teaching, writing, publishing, traveling. Maybe you're learning a foreign language, sharing your knowledge and teaching in some way. I wouldn't even be surprised if you're not spending August, at least this first few weeks of August, having conversations that really revolve around international things, legal things, education, things like this. Now, when we get to the 11th, we've got Mars entering into the vibration of Cancer. As Mars comes into Cancer, Mars is where your feet are in action this month. You are in it for the win it movement, okay? Now, in the 8th house, we've got intimacy and assets. Shared resources are here. So as Mars is here in this activation, it brings courage in addition to movement, right? The courage to address topics that have been avoided, particularly things having to do with financial planning, debt, trust, something that's kind of vulnerable. There's a deep healing. These all become things that are priorities and you are in motion. But Mars can also intensify emotions, and particularly within the house, within the home, within intimate relationships. So if there have been these like hidden frustrations and they're starting to surface, they're not coming up just to create conflict, but to reveal what has been waiting to be acknowledged. It could be that you're paying off debt or you're meeting with a financial advisor and you're starting to see some things bubble to the surface where you're like, oh, I need to have a conversation about that. Or you're working through fears about vulnerability. This could absolutely be what's happening as Mars travels through this area, but have no doubt you will be in action. On the 12th, we've got our first eclipse at 20 degrees of Leo. Now, again, this is in that 9th house space for you. So this is marking a really nice turning point for you in the year, Sagittarius. One, it's being done in fellow fire. So this is energy you do understand. And falling in your 9th house, the eclipse is opening up a brand new chapter that is involving your expansion here, that learning, that travel. Your overall philosophy in life, I think, is going to be really different when we see you 6 months down the road. Some of you might feel called towards, an opportunity that really requires courage because it's going to move you outside of your comfort zone. Now, whether that level of courage is a new educational path or plan for some of you, you're doing something international, you're putting yourself out there, whatever it is, the awakenings are beginning to unfold. But I think that at an evolutionary level, the eclipse is asking your spirit to become larger than the story that you've been currently living. Discovering that your old worldview is not fit for the person that you are today. The eclipse is not just about learning more and planting your seeds of intentions to start doing more. It's about living with this version of yourself that's here now because of all of the things that you have also learned. It's a really interesting expansion time. I will be very curious to see what many of you discover. The other part of it is that the South Node has moved into the vibration of Leo. So there's something about this story that is, yes, you need to go to it. Yes, you get to own your gifts, but you cannot just do this alone. Wherever you're going, there's likely community involved, and it's community that has your most authentic, not necessarily natural, but authentic version of you in mind. On the 22nd, the sun is going to enter into the vibration of Virgo, lighting up your 10th house space. So this is about that public reputation, your career, leadership, something that has long-term achievement. So for you, Sagittarius, first of all, the sun is where you're motivated. And in Virgo, you are motivated to perfect or to make something the best that it can be, right? You're aligning your purpose with what you want to contribute so that it is the very best that it can be. So it is a lovely period for clarifying anything professionally, for seeking that promotion, launching that business, improving your public image in some way, or taking on something that requires a bit of responsibility. I think that your spirit and your soul are learning that wisdom for you is really going to come from how you are serving others authentically, not exhaustion serving, right? Your career right now, Sagittarius, may begin to reflect something that really the eclipse started to peak in, and it's going to start to get words. You're going to start to be able to speak to it. And just on the 25th, we see Mercury come into Virgo and join the sun. So I'm telling you, it strengthens your ability to communicate professionally. And it's one of the best periods of the month as we are going to travel from the 25th on. Plan, negotiate, go for that job interview, write that proposal, update the business system, make a big career decision. All of these things would be in your absolute best interest. But Mercury joining the sun here is going to remind you that if you are going to lead your life in this way, it requires a fair amount of clarity. The clearer your communication, the easier it becomes for other people to trust the vision that you're laying forward. And I don't care if that's for you as a single lovely person in your own life, you running a household, you running a company. The clearer you communicate, the easier it becomes for others to trust your vision. Now, on the 28th, we've got a lunar eclipse happening in Pisces, and this is going to be the last one in the Virgo Pisces axes that we're going to be experiencing. So this is going to light up your 4th house space, home, family, real estate, property. You have had 18 months worth of work here. You have grown. You have grown. You have stronger emotional and spiritual foundations that are going to support your future growth. You know, the way you connect and communicate maybe with family, whatever that word means to you, the way you care for your home, the way you're learning to create emotional safety for yourself, you have grown here, okay? But something involving your family dynamics, your living situation, your emotional foundation is reaching a really important turning point here with this eclipse. For so many of you, I'm just wondering what this story is about, recognizing that external success is not fully satisfying you. Like, what does that feel like for you if you have the success externally, but your insides feel unstable? Right? This eclipse is going to ask you where you truly belong. Home's not just the location, it's also the emotional experience that it creates within you and you create within yourself. So now with the strength of what you have learned over this last 18 months, do not hold on to your 4th house patterns just because they're familiar. Hold on to them because they are what is right for establishing your security. As we're going to close out the month, Jupiter, your ruling planet, is in Leo in a gorgeous flowing trine to Saturn, who's at 13 degrees of Aries. What a nice way to end the month. You know, this aspect really allows your biggest dreams, Sagittarius, whatever your biggest dreams are, to find a practical, lovely, consistent structure. The inspiration that I think you have gained through travel, education, spirituality, you know, your personal growth, it really is going to now start to support any kind of joyful new venture you would like to take on, creative projects. Maybe you're turning your education that you've already gone through, you know it now, you're turning it into a course and you're publishing it or you're sharing it with someone else. Or if you're dating, let's say you're in a relationship, this can become more stable because both of you are beginning to discuss a shared vision. We also have this conversation in Aries of this being the fifth house space. So, is there a space where you have children and you're feeling a lot more called to support their creativity or their education in some way that is very, very intentional? There's a lot of intentionality to make the big dream come true. Evolutionarily, I think your spirit is being reminded at this point of the year that joy deserves discipline. It deserves a place in your life. Your creativity is going to flourish when it is consistently nurtured rather than waiting for like the day that, some inspiration kicks you. So build with creativity, lean into it. Don't believe that your dreams are too large. Just look at how to make them practical. That's a gorgeous use for this flowing trine at the end of the month. All right, my beautiful Sagittarian friends, I love you a ton, and I will see you in September. Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful Capricorn friends, and welcome to your horoscope for August of 2026, where Capricorn, much of the month is going to actually ask you to step a little bit outside of your comfort zone, not recklessly, but really intentionally. So I think we're going to like what this month has to offer to you, because there's this invitation outside of the comfort zone always to release those old fears, particularly for you this month around intimacy. And there is something in here, Capricorn, as well about redefining what is the clarity around some of your career ambitions. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this is playing out in your story as well. It is, of course, eclipse month. So we are going to be shifting direction. We've got the solar eclipse, which is going to transform that shared resource space. And then we're also going to have the lunar eclipse, which is going to be the last one, a part of the Pisces Virgo story that we've been working on for 18 months. So there's something about communication, particularly in an immediate environment for you. Your voice is really powerful, and I hope that you're going to be stepping in to really recognize that. Okay, Capricorn, into the month we go. On the 3rd, we've got Chiron stationing retrograde at 0 degrees of fellow Earth energy, which is Taurus. This is lighting up your 5th house space. This is joy, creativity, pleasure, play, self-expression. So as Chiron has stepped into this Taurian space, this has been the beginning of a period of healing around your ability to express yourself freely. Right? So for some of you, I think that this has less to do with actually having the talent to do or to share or to express yourself, and more to do with giving yourself permission to do so. Somewhere along the line, Capricorn, you may have learned that being responsible was more important than actually being joyful. Or somewhere that creativity was like this luxury. Okay, this is a big piece of it. Now, the good enough or not good enough story, this is absolutely coming up with Chiron in Taurus. So if you've been questioning if you are good enough before sharing something that you've created, Chiron is going to ask you to challenge those beliefs. So, from a spiritual perspective, I think that your spirit under this retrograde is remembering that creativity and joy are not selfish. They are really a part of the soul expression. Now, for others of you who have children that are in your life, this is a transit where you might be going back over and looking at how you are supporting child or children's development, almost in a way where it's about them, but it also puts you in a position to remember that you forgot how to play So I think it's going to be an interesting time experiencing this retrograde. Now, we're going to see that Chiron gets out of Taurus and goes back into Aries for a time, but it will come back for this work. So enjoy this energy, create, be in romancing your life, give yourself the gift of artistic and joyful healing. When we get to the 6th, Venus is going to enter into the vibration of Libra, lighting up your 10th house space of career, reputation, leadership. There's visibility, professional or public visibility that comes with this. And because Venus is an attracting in planet, ruling harmony, diplomacy, there's something that makes you much more naturally appealing. When Venus is at the top of your chart, you're literally, people like you. So you might be being more noticed professionally. Something about you is coming off more balanced or more kind or more cooperative, particularly in challenging situations. So this could be a wonderful period if you needed to promote something, be out and about, just let your public presence be seen. And remember, it's not always just about work. This is wherever your public reputation is carrying your name, even if you're not in the room. Now, at an evolutionary level, Venus also asks whether the public reputation or your career reflects not only the ambition that you have, but also your values. Are things in alignment? Because you can excel, Capricorn, you can just kick some butt and take some names at building something, building success. But Venus is a reminder here that success should also feel meaningful in the deepest core of your empowered, beautiful being. When we get to the 9th, we see that Mercury is going to enter into Leo, lighting up your 8th house space of intimacy and assets. Conversations during this particular transit can be more vulnerable. They can be more vulnerable because there's a fair amount of fire and there's a fair amount of authenticity coming into the room. So if you're having conversations about debt, financial planning, intimacy, vulnerability, they require much more thoughtful discussion at this time. But they'll also require research and investigation. And this is where Mercury is just going to shine in this particular area. You might find yourself honestly digging quite deeply into astrology. I would love that. Psychology, business, investments, things about your family history. Either way, Mercury traveling through this particular area of your chart, it's not just about bringing the words up, but it's also transforming your life through different understandings. So stay a bit curious as Mercury is here. Be willing to explore what is lying beneath the surface, because the more empowered you are now, the more empowered your future decisions are going to become as well. On the 11th, Mars is going to enter into the vibration of Cancer, lighting up your 7th house space of conscious, chosen, one-on-one relationships. Now, Mars is where your feet are planted and you are in action for the month. You're going, right? So relationships are going to become more active. Build partnerships. It's a lovely transit for doing that. But Mars also has a way of revealing where frustrations in your conscious chosen relationships are at. They've been accumulating underneath the surface. And now Mars in Cancer is going to react more emotionally. So if there has been communication that's been avoided, this transit is going to encourage direct but compassionate conversation. Right? Emotional honesty is going to become really, really essential. So, if you're negotiating a business contract, or let's say you get engaged, this happens, or you're going to couples counseling or something like that. Whatever the conversation is that has not wanted to be had, this may be the time to go on ahead and address that, because Mars here, while in action and in motion, it has a desire to have a healthy relationship, but it requires courage, and not just the courage to go to the counseling and not just the courage to love, but also the courage to communicate. So I'll be interested to see where this goes, because it can be very passive aggressive. It can be passive aggressive actions and communication, and we kind of want to avoid that. On the 12th, we have got the solar eclipse happening at 20 degrees of Leo. And as you can see, this 8th house, intimacy, assets, these shared resources has been quite busy, will continue to be quite busy. There's a stellium happening at this eclipse. So the Leo area of your chart really has your attention. Now, the eclipse is bringing a beginning. It absolutely is. But it's bringing a beginning through an ending. So you might find yourself releasing something that has been a financial burden, or you've had these outdated fears that have kept you from moving forward in some way, or there's like an unhealthy attachment. I'll do it all myself. I've got it. And this is an emotional pattern that has likely been quietly, sometimes loudly, limiting your growth for years. Okay, so as the eclipse comes, we can see that there are likely some pretty important financial or shared income developments that present themselves. And it's getting you into position to see that the true security is not going to be created through I do it all myself, through control. It's going to be created through the wisdom of what you've learned, trust, and conscious participation in life's inevitable cycle changes. The money is not always there, and even if the money is always there, your mind frame around the money may not be. Transformation that gets initiated at this particular solar eclipse, I think, can be defined as not always being comfortable, but it is sure. And it will create space for something much stronger on the other side. And this identity, where there's been the fear or the scarcity or the emotional self-protection or giving away your power, I think you're really going to see on the other side, you get some of these areas really tightened up. Embrace this change really intentionally. Organize those finances. Ask for the emotional support that you need. On the 22nd, the sun enters into the vibration of Virgo, and on the 25th, we'll also welcome Mercury into Virgo. So everybody's happy over here in Virgo, okay? Mercury is in domicile. And so as we have the sun and Mercury traveling in this 9th house area of your chart, Capricorn, it's all about publishing, marketing, broadcasting, teaching, international things. It's one of the strongest periods of the month for if you needed to write that book, if you needed to prepare a presentation or record something, or, you're getting your wisdom organized in some way. You're deeply motivated to do so. And that's the energy of the sun. It brings that light, heat, life, and motivation to the table. So your transformations that are happening and are available to you as the sun comes here in this 9th house, first of all, they're going to be earthy. So they're looking for long term. They may need to adjust along the way, but they're long term. But if you also feel ready to learn or to teach or to pursue some kind of opportunity, this is the time of the month to be going about that. On the 28th, we've got this lunar eclipse happening at 4 degrees of Pisces. So the eclipse here, first of all, I want to call to you and to your remembering that you've spent the last 18 months in this Virgo Pisces axis. You have learned something. Your spirit has learned to speak with greater authenticity, and it's also learned to speak in the language of the spirit and compassion. You have learned it. You have learned it. You have learned to communicate at a level of honesty and listen with sacred ears in ways that before maybe created division, and now you're able to see a little bit differently. But as this eclipse is happening, it's going to ask us to end something, acknowledge something, or to make an adjustment. So you might experience some really important conversations. And thank goodness you can speak and hear now with a greater level of competency and skill. A writing project could be coming to completion. You receive some kind of significant news that allows you to really bring together everything you have previously learned. You realize your voice has a lot of influence. Now, this eclipse as well, because it has so much to do with communication, and this is where this work has been, I think that relationships with siblings or people who are in your immediate environment, network, or community, these will be on the rise as well. So if there has been any kind of emotional misunderstanding, there can just really be a resolution that's coming to it as well. Now, as we're going to close out the month, we're ending on a lovely flowing trine between Jupiter and Saturn, our tutor planets. And this aspect is going to help you, Capricorn, to build long-lasting stability. But it's through the deep work that you've already been doing all month long, right? Financial decisions that you've made in the beginning portion of the month are now going to strengthen you long-term for your long-term security. While all of that emotional healing and being very intentional in that area is likely going to improve your family relationships or your close network relationships. And ultimately, I think this change in communication, as well as tapping into something where you realize you have a bit more peace and serenity, which, yes, thank you very much for all of that, right? There's something about this particular flowing, beautiful trine that gives you a space, I think, to understand that the more and more your foundations, i.e. your inner life and your home, become secure, the less the external world is going to bother you, and it will reflect the transformation that you're experiencing. So be very intentional with your energies at the end of the month. And it's not like you should just be unintentional for the rest of the month, but these energies that dig into the 8th house or the 8th house and the 4th house get involved. We really want to look at how you're building some kind of long-lasting security through very, very conscious transformation. So, it can also be that you're doing that financial planning, you're doing that real estate planning, you're doing the family healing, whatever it is, it's all going to be a long-term investment. All right, my beautiful Capricorn friends, I hope you have a gorgeous month. Let me know how it goes in the comment section down below. I love you, and I'll see you in September. Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful Aquarian friends, and welcome to your horoscope for August of 2026. Now, Aquarius, this month is a month centered on relationships for you. Whenever we come into Leo season, and then of course we're having a Leo eclipse, we bring this space of conscious chosen one-on-one relationships, intimacy. Oftentimes we'll see throughout other transits in the month that your career, these all come solely into your attention. So there's going to be a spotlight on this as we're traveling this month. Now, as we're going to get closer to the end of the month and we get to our second eclipse that'll be there in the Pisces axis, I want you to be thinking about this even as you listen to this forecast at the beginning, that you have worked this Virgo and Pisces axes for the last 18 months. So celebrate what you have learned. You have learned something about trust, about surrender, about your money, about your worth, about your resources. These things have happened. So as we have an eclipse and it brings the rumblings of change to this area, you are more than prepared. Okay, Aquarius, let's jump in and see what the month has to offer. Now, right here on the 3rd, we've got Chiron stationing retrograde in the vibration of Taurus. So this is going to light up your 4th house space, home, family, real estate, property. Now, as Chiron began its journey through Taurus and will now retrograde, this has made just a beginning here in 2026 on your healing journey within the things around your ancestry and your family. I mean, it's very much so tapping into the getting good enough on your inner world. Now, one of the things that Chiron does is that it can bring forward memories, childhood memories, family dynamics, patterns of emotional behavior, whether you've developed them or inherited them, right? And now you're going to start to understand them from a new perspective. And for some of you, it may honestly just be about healing your relationship with your parent or whoever your caregiver was at the time. Others are going to recognize that there's been a lot of years spent on creating this external stability, while the internal emotional foundation now is going to need its tending. At a spirit level, the thing that keeps coming to me is that your spirit is just healing its relationship with belonging and emotional safety. Let me know how that resonates for you in the comment section down below. When we get to the 6th, we've got Venus entering into the vibration of Libra, lighting up your 9th house space. What a beautiful activation to your travel, education, publishing, marketing, philosophy, international travel, legal area of your chart. And this is a transit as Venus comes, and remember that Venus is not hustling hard. It's bringing and opening and attracting you to opportunities that broaden your mind and your heart and your space that you're taking up on this planet. So if you are feeling a bit more inspired to study or to travel or to teach or to engage with people who are different than you, right? Your relationships, you're like, oh, I really want to try this restaurant that I've never tried before because I just want to be in that culture and experience it. Enjoy it. It's introducing you to perspectives that you've honestly never considered before. Because evolutionarily, Venus reminds us that your soul also exists in beauty outside of familiar territory, right? So take this transit that is Venus so comfortable in Libra because it's in domicile with curiosity, not with certainty, and attract to you, and then receive the goodness of the new perspectives and experiences that come through you. On the 9th, we've got Mercury entering into the vibration of Leo. Mercury lighting up your 7th house space, conscious chosen one-on-one relationships. So you are having conversations, whether they're conversations that are coming up and they are new, they're conversations that have been postponed and they're finally happening. You are negotiating something. We just came out of Mercury retrograde, so there's plenty of misunderstandings that maybe need to be clarified. But also, future plans in terms of relationships, you might be having this conversation. And there's something about this particular Mercury fiery energy that it feels to me like this is the point in the month where you're checking in on how foundational communication has become. Right? It's either deepening and growing a relationship or there's something hiding and the relationship is not being built on honesty and it's going to start to die. So you're really going to want to be looking at this. And it's not so much about intellectualizing the emotions or the situation. It's just about expressing them. This is a pure on express them, say it, say the thing, say it with your chest out. On the 11th, we've got Mars moving into the vibration of Cancer, lighting up your 6th house space of daily work, health routines. I also like to include your mental health and wellness here because it is also about what you're doing and how you're speaking to yourself, right? Now, Mars is where your boots are going to be planted, your feet are going this month. So your schedule can become busier at this point in the month. Or you just have more motivation. You're like, I have these things I need to get done, and you are feeling a little bit more motivated. So if you've been looking for a little zip to the whip, this can be your energy. It is an excellent period for beginning Mars initiation, beginning Cancer, cardinal energy. Any kind of new routine, whether it be exercise, nutrition, reorganizing your workspace, something around productivity. But Mars is still Mars, and it is traveling through Cancer, where it can increase stress if you take on more than your body or your emotions can realistically sustain. So take it easy, pace yourself. You've got all this Martian energy. Go find healthier ways to contributing to your own world, but don't burn yourself out with the constant activity. When we get to the 12th, we've got this beautiful eclipse. It's a solar eclipse at 20 degrees of Leo, back in this 7th house space where we've got a stellium of energy happening over here. So your 7th house is screaming at you, Aquarius. It's like, hey girl, hey guy, let's talk about all these things. So it's a beautiful time to realize we are honestly at a turning point in the year here with this eclipse, because it's beginning an entirely new chapter for you involving committed partnerships, whether that be marriage, business partnerships, contracts, your significant one-on-one conscious connections. These are the kind of beginnings when we have an eclipse that it does reshape the path. Now, a big story here, even though the South Node is only just come to this sign, is going to be that relationships cannot be all, I got it. That's not going to be it. That's not going to be it. So you're entering into some really important relationship learning time. Now, an important relationship can be changing for you. You get married, you get engaged, you get divorced, you sign a contract that changes the direction of your life, right? Whatever it is, over this next 6 months, you're in this space where the eclipse is going to ask your spirit whether a relationship is healthy, whether it's right, and you can continue to become fully yourself in it. But it's also going to remind you that you don't have to abandon that beautiful individuality that you have, but it does also have to include making authentic space for the other person and you to flourish in an interdependence. On the 22nd, we've got the sun entering into the vibration of Virgo. And then on the 25th, we've got Mercury entering into Virgo, where it is in domicile. So very comfortable. You're motivated. Your thinking is sharp. This is in the 8th house of intimacy and assets. Also astrology. So that's nice. So you will be at your peak for getting organized. If something has felt overly complicated, taxes, financial decisions, sometimes things that are more emotional and tender, vulnerable pieces of your soft white underbelly, this is the strongest period of the month to get it done. Your brain, your mind is on. Your ability to find solutions, it is on. I'm telling you, they previously seemed like impossible tasks, or just your whole being got so tired thinking about it. And now you're like, oh, I just need to analyze this, not be exhausted and worn out emotionally about it, and you're getting it done. So enjoy this transit as we are taking it through the rest of the month. Now on the 28th, we've got a lunar eclipse at 4 degrees of Pisces. This lights up your second house space. And I am telling you, you have absolutely strengthened your relationship with your genuine self-worth. You just have. It's been 18 months. It's been 18 months, friend. You have made some progress here. Whether it has been reviewing those finances, valuing your talents and contributions appropriately, making spending choices that better reflect your priorities, and trusting that if you make a little plan and then follow it, it will work out. That level of surrender at the Pisces space, you have learned this. So as we have this lunar eclipse, start from a position of celebration. What have you done well here? But something regarding your finances or your relationship with that value is being asked to end, be acknowledged, or adjust. It's like you're completing a final chapter. You're getting that raise, you're changing the job, you've been doing the footwork, now you're releasing that unhealthy spending habit, right? The deeper invitation at this point in this Pisces energy, I think, really is about the receiving. It's the ability to have enough self-worth and understand the depth that receiving means. And that recognizing that receiving is putting you in a position to look at whether you value yourself simply because you exist, or if it's only because I'm producing, right? This is an interesting energy. I will be very curious. Please tell me, what have you learned? Where are you almost waiting for this eclipse because you're like, yeah, I've got this one a little bit more under my feet. Okay, as we're going to close out the month, we're closing on a beautiful flowing fire trine between Jupiter and Saturn. Our tutor is helping us unfold these lessons that our professor planets, the outer planets, have set for us. And it has been a big one. We are in an entirely different world. And listen, your ruling planets are up here doing the most as well. So this very harmonious energy between your 7th house and your 3rd house creates tremendous support for building your relationships, but it comes through mature, clear communication. This is how your partnerships become stronger, because conversations become more honest. Saturn brings a structure and a maturity to them, and they also become, very future oriented. Now, I don't know if this is you, so please let me know in the comment section down below, whatever it is, right? We're learning to create these partnerships that last through clear communication, mutual respect. Love that. Somebody is signing a long-term business agreement. You've been working on it for months, or maybe you've been negotiating it for months. You're signing it. You're signing it end of August, beginning of September. Please let me know if that is you. Now, I was also thinking about the dating and the actual relationship piece. In the 7th house, we're past just dating. We're thinking about, are we really going to do this, right? And there's likely a conversation coming up where you find out that indeed, we're on the same page. And this has created a foundation where you think, yeah, okay, I think I can really commit to this. let me know, okay? Whoever is listening, if that's you and your story, let me know in the comment section down below. I love you, Aquarius. I hope you have a great month, and I will see you in September. Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful Pisces friends, and welcome to your horoscope for August of 2026. And Pisces, the first half of August is really so much emphasis on your work, your health, this area of life. And when we get to the second half of the month and we've got this lunar eclipse shining directly into your first house, it's really going to be this call to remember what you have learned about yourself over the last 18 months, because there is an ask to release this old version of yourself. And it doesn't need to happen, right at the end of the month. But we'll be working on doing that official letting go of it by the time we are certainly closing out 2026. And of course, we've got a solar eclipse that's happening in mid-month that is going to really help you with your everyday responsibilities. So lots of encouragement actually happening this month. Let's jump in and take a look at it. Right at the beginning of the month on the 3rd, we've got Chiron stationing retrograde in Taurus, and you and Taurus energy get along. I love that. I actually love where the combination of this sextile to one another, earthy, watery combination is coming together. Because as this is lighting up your 3rd house space of communication, siblings, your voice, you're beginning this really profound period. And when I say beginning, that's what I mean, because we're not going to really dig into it until 2027, but you are beginning this period of healing around your communication, around a voice and expressing yourself in your particular way. There's learning, there's a new mindset that you're being asked to step into. So I would encourage you, as Chiron steps into this retrograde, to begin to notice where you've had these long-standing mindsets or beliefs, and whether or not that's truly the way you want to be expressing yourself anymore. Prime example, maybe early on you learned that if you speak really honestly, not brutally honest, but rigorously honest, that it's going to create this conflict, right? Or you shared an idea and it really wasn't taken seriously. And as a result, there's this developed habit of staying quiet, over explaining yourself, just assuming people are not going to understand your perspective, something like this. At an evolutionary depth and perspective, I think that your spirit is doing the healing now. It's healing the belief that your voice was too much or not enough. Your voice actually carries the medicine, Pisces. So whatever the wisdom is that you have gathered through your experiences, they deserve to be shared. Even if not everybody immediately understands that, I think that you're going to be learning this. As we get to the 6th, we see Venus come into the vibration of Libra. Again, some really delicious energy. Venus is at home in Libra, and it's lighting up your 8th house space of intimacy and assets. So shared resources, emotional healing, astrology. I love that astrology is here. So as you get this lovely Venusian activation, remember Venus is not our hustle hard planet. Venus here is calling in. It's calling in the intimacy, the trust, the money for the investments, the inheritance, the protection and support around emotional vulnerability, right? But here is where I think that relationships naturally become a more deeper and more authentic piece of your story for the month. Because Venus here is learning and helping you see that in the receiving position, in the being clear about what you value position, that vulnerability, being that level honest, is the source of strength rather than fear, right? So use it, practice these honest conversations. Allow people that are trustworthy to support you, accept and receive the support, right? Now, in another way, because this is the other of our financial houses, financial cooperation in ways that you need can improve. If you needed to take that loan, if you're paying down that debt, if you needed to have a conversation about making some kind of joint investment, estate planning, all of that, this would be an awesome time to be doing that. Just be very clear about what your needs are and what your values are so that you can attract what you need to you and then allow Venus to soften the situation. On the 9th, we've got Mercury moving into the vibration of Leo. Now, this is going to light up your 6th house space. Work, health, daily routines, the way you're of service. So your schedule can become busier. It might become busier, right? But it's nice because you get a fair amount of mental clarity coming with it. Decisions that needed to be made, phone calls that needed to be made that you've been avoiding, or phone calls that you've been waiting to hear back. These all start coming and flooding in. So it is an excellent period for getting organized in this day-to-day way. If you needed to get a new system organized, if you need to improve your workflow in some way, addressing any kind of health concerns, this is wonderful. Now, small adjustments that you make beginning right here, August 9th, while Mercury is in Leo, are going to have longer term benefits to what Mercury carries when it gets into Virgo. So kind of keep this in mind because that's going to be happening at the end of the month. When we get to the 11th, Mars enters into fellow water energy of Cancer, lighting up your 5th house space of joy, pleasure, play, creativity, romance, children, and self-expression. Mars is where you are in motion, you are in action. The passion is increasing, the desire is increasing. So it makes it one of the most exciting periods, actually, of the month. Because, first of all, romantic relationships, they become a little bit more emotionally expressive in whatever ways that happens. Creative inspiration, you're in it, you're taking it on. If you've been waiting to work on that art project or just sit down with watercolors at your own kitchen, this is the time where you're like, I'm doing it, F it, I'm doing it. I like Mars a little bit because you can pull a little bit of the F it card and just take the courage to move something forward. But Mars is also in Cancer. So Mars here can increase the emotional intensity around all of these things. Honest communication is going to help for sure because it's going to help prevent what it could be unnecessary misunderstandings. However, you want to just still be mindful that the emotional reactions can be happening here. And when I say emotional reaction, I'm not just talking anger. I just want you to be mindful, right? You can have an emotional reaction that absolutely overshadows a genuine connection. And then you have written a check that your hiney can't cash, right? So kind of keep that in mind as Mars is traveling here, but be about that motion. On the 12th, we've got the solar eclipse happening at 20 degrees of Leo, again, back in this 6th house space. And this has got a stellium of planets. So this area of your chart is absolutely calling for your attention. The eclipse here, it's going to transform your relationship with your day-to-day routine. Now, whether that be, the systems you use to move around your life, the schedule that you keep, that new job or that new contract that you are getting, how you're taking on career responsibility, some kind of health breakthrough, whatever it is, what you're spending your time and your wellness on are about to get a rerouting. This eclipse is asking truly whether or not your daily life truly supports you. Truly supports you. It's not enough to have beautiful dreams. It's not enough to be looking busy if that is consistently a habit of exhaustion. We need quality over quantity. Now remember, the South Node has also recently come into Leo, and while it is not tightly involved with this eclipse, I think it's there. I think the presence of it cannot be, I got it, I'll do everything. The Superman, Superwoman cape has to be put down just a little bit, and we have to find a way to build better boundaries in this particular area. So whatever changes need to be made, health, career, business systems, I would be putting these in place at this eclipse, and we'll watch it pan out over the next 6 months as well. Now on the 22nd, we've got the sun entering into the vibration of Virgo, and on the 25th, we'll welcome Mercury into Virgo, where Mercury is very happy and comfortable. Now both of these planets have you on motivation and clarity of thought and deed. And it is about your conscious chosen one-on-one relationships. You indeed have been working the Pisces Virgo axis for the last 18 months. So where that South Node in Virgo has helped you have better negotiation skills, right? Make a little bit more plan, understand the other perspective, or it's given you more space to understand that other people are not going to understand you if you're not expressing what it is you need, right? Like there's some real clarity, I think, around this and this business of trying to keep it all together because you're matching someone else's happy or someone else's expectation while completely losing yourself. As the Sun and Mercury come here now, the relationships and navigating them with what you have learned become a greater priority, right? Because they're going to be looking for more balance and to be the very best that they can. This is your strongest period of the month for negotiating anything you need to negotiate, plans, future plans, resolving a disagreement, a contract. Do you need to sign a contract or look for a contract? This is the time. When we get to the 28th, we've got this lunar eclipse that is happening in your sign. Again, I call you back to this, remembering you have learned, you have grown so much into your spirit in the last 18 months. And I want you to start this lunar eclipse, which is our full moon for the month, in the position of celebration. Celebrate what you have learned, right? Your spirit is going to be on this continuing journey under this eclipse and for the next 6 months of shedding an outdated identity and stepping more into truly shining the current version of yourself. So this personal reinvention, this emotional healing, this confidence, all of that. Where have you grown in that in the last 18 months? But also the full moon, as it asks us to end something, acknowledge something, or to make an adjustment, it's going to ask you to look at where you're still clinging to roles or expectations that are not right for you anymore. Right? They're going to ask you to take a look at that. And this can also be that you find in the next 6 months, you have a pretty profound change to your appearance, even the way you want to present yourself, because like it, dislike it, people are judging us on the way that we look. So is it the way that you're presenting yourself? Is it in alignment with your priorities? And do you feel confident when you're stepping into these spaces? And people around you maybe uttering things like, oh, you've changed. And they can't quite explain how, but you'll know that some outdated version of yourself that was created to survive is not running the show anymore. So I invite you to celebrate that. Let me know how those changes have happened for you, in this last 18 months in the comment section down below. Now, as we're going to close out this month, we are closing with this beautiful flowing trine between Jupiter at 13 Leo and Saturn at 13 Aries. Lovely, harmonious way for the tutors to welcome us out of this month. Now, this aspect is happening between your 6th house and your 2nd house. So this is a beautiful support for building financial stability for yourself, but the understanding that it's going to come through the consistent work and the disciplined habits. Improvements you've made to your routines throughout the month, this is where they are really going to begin to produce those tangible rewards. So for example, let's say that you are receiving a raise. It would be because you've improved your performance, right? Or you're growing some kind of service-based business or developing a healthier habits. It's going to be because you have put some kind of discipline, Saturn, in place for yourself. Now, this aspect also reminds me that your income, when you think about the money, when you think about that, it is absolutely closely connected to how much you value your own skills. And Saturn is helping you to establish some healthy, mature financial understanding and boundaries. And Jupiter is expanding the opportunities that align with your understanding of what your talents and skills can do. You have to be clear on that value, right? So as you're traveling and you're using this trine at the end of this month, grow the career, get the budget together, do the business development, look for the healthy routine, whatever it is. It's about strengthening these financial and value habits. What I would avoid doing is continuing to undervalue yourself in some way, not receiving, undervaluing your work, or believing that consistency is going to just get you there without the inspiration. We need both of them, right? So Pisces, it's a beautiful month. We've got this last eclipse in your sign. I want to also thank the Pisces vibration for walking us through the last 18 months of growing in our spirits, in our surrenders, in our connection with our creativity and our intuition. It's a big job to handle, just like the job of all signs, but it is a big job to be the one that brings us home, to remember everything we have learned, evaluate it, and remember that in the end, we were never separate in the first place. All right, my beautiful Pisces friends, I hope you have a gorgeous month. Let me know how it goes in the comment section below.